All right, we are live and all set to go.
Very good. Thanks, Jim. Good evening. My name is Greg Young. I'm the chair of the Northborough Conservation Commission. And this open meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16th, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Conferring member access. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tom Beals.
Here.
Dan Clark.
Here.
Kelly Marston. We lost Kelly Marston. Then I'm here.
He's mute.
I think Jim's working, Kelly and Todd.
I'm still here, just somehow my video is gone.
Okay.
I'm trying
Kelly
to fix
Marston. Kelly Marston's here. Is Todd Helwig gone? Not yet.
Oh, yep, actually, he just popped in. There he is. I'm
Okay,
promoting him over to panelists now. He'll be over in one moment.
very good. Hello, Todd.
I'm about to make a motion.
No, too early. Are you, we're doing roll call. Are you present?
I am present.
Okay, very good. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Fred Litchfield,
Present.
Jim DiGiulio,
Here.
Vinnie Vignali.
Here.
Very good. Some business rules for presenters and/or applicants. The chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until the name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by roll call vote. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click raise hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, the chair will call each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Tom, you're up.
I'll check them off. Okay.
There will be a meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. To participate in the public comment portion of this public hearing, go to Northborough Remote Meetings YouTube channel or town website for Zoom information. The meeting will include the following hearings pursuant to MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, and the Northborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice of intent application for 11 and 13 Mill Street, map 50, parcel 54, by Patricia Shea for a replacement of an existing septic system. Notice of intent application for 75 Lawrence Street, map 110, parcel 8, by Nancy Meehan for replacement of the existing septic system. Request for determination of applicability for 93 Maynard Street, map 20, parcel 15, by Marcelo Menez for proposed clearing of trees within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. Notice of intent application for 75 Ridge Road, proposed lot 1, map 65, parcel 8889, by Damon Amato for the proposed construction of the single-family home. Notice of intent application for 75 Ridge Road, lot 2, map 65, parcels 88 and 89, by Damon Amato for the proposed construction of a single-family home and storm drain discharge, common driveway. Notice of intent application for 75 Ridge Road, proposed lot 3, map 65, parcel 88, 89, by Damon Amato for the proposed construction of a single-family home. Notice of intent application for 71, Coolidge Circle, map 7, parcel 18, by Curtis Morgan for the repair of a septic system and removal of hazardous trees.
Super. Thank you, Tom. All right. First item on the agenda is to welcome our new conservation agent. Mr. Vignali has joined us. Welcome, Vinny.
Thank
Yes.
you very much. Yeah, it's a good
Vinny
commission.
has jumped in feet first.
Excellent, great.
So,
Yeah, and it's pretty deep. There's a lot of stuff. You guys are really busy and active, so it's a good reflection, very positive.
you're welcome. Meeting minutes from May. Any questions, comments, or concerns about those? No questions, comments, concerns?
Move to approve.
Second,
Seconded by Tom Beals. Roll call. Tom Beals,
yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes,
and I vote yes. Minutes are approved. Very good. July meeting. I'll talk about the July meeting quickly here. We are still doing a little bit of a dance with support. It looks like the date we'd like to grab right now, I think we kicked this around last month, will be July 20. That's a Wednesday. How does that sit with anybody, everybody in the phone?
Fine with me.
Good here.
Should be okay.
I know Justin said that was a good date for him. I talked to him.
How about Kelly?
What do you think, Kelly?
yes.
All right, so I think we got a date there on that one. So, anyhow,
Just so you know, the administrator's office informed me today that they are expecting to have a host early in July, a new host. So Jim will no longer be hosting our webinars. And he'll be in training for the first couple of weeks, which is why we're going to meet on July 20th. And then in August, we will go back to our second Monday of the month schedule, if that's okay with everyone.
Fred, I noticed that the Baker statement was issued the 16th of June last year. Is that, what are the other boards and commissions doing? Any talk about going
No,
in person or hybrid or?
no discussion that I'm aware of. My understanding is the governor's extension of the state of emergency and the COVID related relief that we had to meet remotely is going to expire on July 15th. So I'm expecting we will get some information shortly before that about whether it's going to be extended again, made permanent, modified to include a hybrid, or go away altogether. So there are lots of options up in the air. The fact that we're not meeting until the 20th gives us time to adjust. So we will, at least in terms of tonight, we'll be able to, any hearings that need to get continued, have that date in mind. And then I'll be able to give, Vin, you'll be able to give that date to any new applications coming forward, and the deadline will be associated with that. Our August meeting will only be about 3 weeks later, so hopefully the July meeting won't be too cumbersome. And then I'll get some information once we get past July 15th about what we're going to do going forward. My guess it will probably be around July 14th when we hear something from the governor.
Hey, Fred, so I believe a proposal has been made to extend it to December 2023, but they're waiting on the voting, so they still have to vote on it. But
Okay.
as you said, it may be the day before.
Yeah, last time it got extended, but there was a 1-day gap, and that 1-day gap included a meeting for the planning board. So they had one meeting in person, and the next day they went back to remote meeting. So I envision that scenario could play out once again, but not to you.
All right, so we'll have more information in a few weeks, and we'll go from there.
Hopefully.
Fair enough. Okay, let's jump into the agenda. I do want to reserve some time for the discussion on Mount Pisgah. So when Jim DeMayo joins us, we'll try and squeeze him in. We can have that discussed and send him on his way. So 0 Hudson Street. Anybody here for 0 Hudson Street?
I was not anticipating anyone would be in
Okay.
attendance. The engineer that I've been working with, Maureen from Norse Environmental, had
Yep.
requested an extension to your July meeting. We are scheduled to visit with her tomorrow on site to review that wetland delineation, which we've been trying to do for several months.
Yeah, okay. Just a matter of syncing up the agenda, the schedules.
Make a motion to continue.
Second,
Seconded by Kelly. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
yes.
I vote yes. Continued. 137 Madison Road. I believe we have some folks here for that. Cato O'Donnell is here. Ronnie Norelden is here. Norelden. I apologize, I mispronounced it. Jim, you want to bring him in or should I? One. Okay. Should be joining us momentarily.
Yep, I'm in. Good evening. This is Ronnie.
Hey, Ronnie. Oh, there you are. Welcome.
Thank you.
And who else? We're waiting for somebody else, right?
I believe Katie from Ecotech is joining.
Okay.
Would that be Katie O'Donnell?
Kate O'Donnell has her
Yes.
hand up, yes.
There she is. Hello, Katie.
Hi.
Welcome. All right, so this is a continuation from last month on 137 Madison Road. Ronnie wants to put in a patio, steps, and some site work. We've had some visitations with them. We've had some discussions back and forth, and I believe we have a modified approach. Is that a fair discussion point?
Yes.
Okay. Ronnie or Kate, you can lead this. We can put something up too. Do we want to put up a copy of the plan?
Yeah, I can also share my screen if needed.
Okay.
Well, hold on a second, Katie. Hold on. I
Okay.
want Vincent. This is a test for Vincent too, to see if he can set up there. So we're gonna, we have a new
All right.
conservation agent, so we're trying to get him, you know.
All
up to
right.
speed. I can see it.
You can. Oh, good. Okay.
All right.
So since the last hearing, the stairs that were proposed within the 35 no structure zone have been removed,
Mhm.
as well as the mitigation plantings. So the proposed work is now to replace the existing patio with a new patio. All of the work will be 35 feet from the wetland. And straw wattle erosion control barriers are proposed on this black line. All work is within existing lawn.
Mhm.
And I believe that's it. So I can answer any questions.
Any questions from the commission? So Ronnie, you decided to make that trek around the corner and then come down that side piece to get to the bottom side? You know, they're on the edge.
Yeah, so we removed the steps from the proposal until we can, talk with an engineering firm and try and figure out the best approach.
Yep.
But our thought right now is just get the patio approved. That's 98% of the project anyway, right?
Yep.
And then figure out the steps at a later time.
All right. No other question from the commission?
Looks good to me.
Let me see if we have, Dan says good. Let me see if we have any questions from the public. I don't see any hands up.
You got Kelly.
Okay. Then we need to vote to close the hearing.
Make a motion to close the hearing for 137 Madison Road.
Second.
Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes,
and I vote yes. We are going to vote.
Yeah, I was going to move to issue an order of conditions for, and it was on the screen, so I missed it. 137 Madison Road.
Correct.
Second.
Seconded by Dan Clark. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
and I vote yes. Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for working with us, Ronnie. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
We may talk to you again down the road, it sounds like. So
Yep.
off we go.
Appreciate it. Have a good night, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Eleven and 13 Mill Street. Proposed septic repair and associated site work. And Vito is there. Hello, Vito. You're muted.
There we go.
There we go. All right. Okay. We want to put up a plan here if we have it.
Yeah, I can put one up. I have a colored one. So let me,
That's better than what I have.
okay. All right. Okay. We ready to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. Vito Colonna with Cornerstone Engineering. So we have a septic repair at 11 and 13 Mill Street. Let me just pull up the other. This is the GIS, just showing an overview of where we are. It's right at the end of Mill Street. Pierce is right down the end right here. In the back out here, this is Cold Harbor Brook, and this is kind of a ponded up section of the brook right through here that abuts the back portion of the lot. So on the plan itself, we show that ponded area in the back right here. It also has an associated 100-year floodplain, which kind of creeps up into the backyard, but not really up into the front where the work area is. We have the 25, 35-foot buffer here and 100-foot buffer zone coming through the front of the yard. The way the delineation worked, Goddard did the delineation. They had the end of the stream ending here and then re-beginning over in here. So the inner 100-foot riverfront has an arc right there and another one here. And then the 200-foot kind of encompasses the whole site. So everything's within the riverfront area for the site. The project itself, there's an existing septic system. It's kind of this bubble shape. It's in the front yard right now. It's in failure, must be replaced. So the only spot that we could find would just basically to be replace it in the same location. This would give us the maximum distance to the wetlands, would still maintain, over 50 feet to the leach field from the edge of wetland, and be able to work with the existing plumbing. That's really basically it. We did include erosion barriers around there, and then there's 2 catch basins out in the street that we were going to propose silt sacks in also. Just as far as the riverfront area goes, the lot was in the septic was installed pre-96, so would be one of the grandfathered septics under the Rivers Act. With that, I guess I'll hand it back over. Any questions?
No alternative, really, is there?
Not that we could find.
Have you been to the Board of Health yet, Vito?
Even moving this way, we had a water line that runs up through here. So we really couldn't even move it to the south at all.
Have you been to the Board of Health, Vito?
It was submitted. I didn't hear back. I don't know if it's been approved yet. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but I haven't heard anything back yet.
Any questions from the commission, comments, concerns?
I don't have any. It's not much of a choice.
Yep. I don't see any public comment. Okay, if there's no other questions, concerns, let's move forward with closing the hearing and taking a vote.
So moved.
Second,
Seconded by Kelly. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
yes,
I vote yes. Hearing is closed.
All right, thank you.
I'd move to issue an order of conditions for 11 and 13 Mill Street.
Second,
And with no special conditions, right? I don't think we need anything special out there.
Didn't
Looks
hear
pretty
any.
sta- Pretty standard. Roll call, Tom Beals,
yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
yes.
And I vote yes. All right. You're in business. Thanks, Vito.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Vito, you give me a call tomorrow.
Yep,
Thank you.
will do.
All right. Moving along. Just looking to see, we haven't seen Jim DeMeo. It's 7 o'clock. Okay. 75 Lawrence Street, NOI for another septic replacement and associated site work. And Vinny, you visited 75 Lawrence Street, didn't you? You're muted.
Yes, I was there. I've got a plan and a photo if the person, the designer is not ready to present.
Looks
I'm here. I can print up my plan.
Oh, I thought it was you also. Okay.
Video
sorry.
again, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, your pictures are much better. I just have a scan of your plan, so it's the black and white, so yours are much clearer. I've got a couple of photos if you want, if that would help too.
Okay. So this is the plan right here. I don't know if we're ready to start on this one too.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so this one's also a septic replacement. So on this lot, we have a BVW down here, that shaded dark green, and there's also a perennial stream that runs through the site right here. It runs up under Lawrence Street through a 30-inch culvert and then ultimately up to Smith Pond. There wasn't any mapped flood zones that extend up into the work area or the site, but it was a perennial stream that ran through there. So we do have the 200-foot riverfront that's way over here. So the entire site is really covered by that. In the backyard, there's an existing cesspool. It's right in this location in the back. And they also have an existing drinking water well in the back right there. So what we propose to do is move the septic, we'll put in a new tank and a pump and pump it up to the front up in here. And that would give us the separations from the well. Typically, it'd like to be 100 feet from the well. Right now, it's less than 50 to the well right there, to the cesspool. And we'd get about 113 feet to the well. And it would still give us the 50-foot separation to the wetlands over in this location. So we tried to balance between separation of the wetlands and also to the drinking water well. It really didn't seem like we had much other option on site than this location. So they're gonna have to cut back a portion of the driveway. Right here, there's an existing tail of driveway. That'll get cut off and then converted over to lawn over where the septic system would be. This one, it was submitted to Board of Health also, and I'm not sure on this one also if it was approved yet or not. I haven't heard anything back. I guess that's all I have on this.
Was there any more work to be done on the site? Is this the one that there was more work, Vinny? No, that's Coolidge Circle, right?
Yeah, I didn't think there was any other work they would.
Okay, that's another one later on. So it's just a pure septic replacement as you outlined, Vito, right?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions, concerns from the commission?
Nope.
Checking for public comment. I don't see any hands up. No. Okay. Then let's move ahead, close, and no special conditions. We didn't hear any of those, so. Let's move ahead with closing the hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Second by Tom Beals. Minutes ahead of Kelly. Roll call. Tom Beals,
yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes,
I vote yes.
Move to issue order of conditions for 75 Lawrence Street with no special conditions.
Second,
Second by Tom. Roll call. Tom Beals,
yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
and I vote yes.
All right. Well, thank you.
Are you done, Vito? No more tonight with us?
Nope, that's it. I'm all
Okay.
done. right.
Thank you. We'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
Okay. We have an RDA for 93 Maynard Street. And Vinny and I visited the site the other day. There's a couple of questions we have about it, but let's bring the right people in here. I've got panelist.
Hi guys, this is Andrew Tebow with Goddard Consulting. Am I coming through okay?
See you loud and clear. Yep.
Perfect. I can share my screen and show you guys the site plans for the project if that helps.
Yeah, I want to talk a bit about that first. So Vinny, we had some questions here about a number of items, correct? You're muted. There you go.
Yeah, my space bar is not working to unmute, but yeah, we sent a comment letter and we got a response back that they were pulling things together, but I think Andrew can address their status. I haven't seen anything official yet.
Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've spoken with the engineers for the project. I know they were on site yesterday working out there. I know Vinny was able to meet them on site, which is excellent. So we're preparing updated site plans for you guys in advance of the next hearing. I know we needed stamped plans. There were a number of questions of a fence that was put up, a chicken coop to be shown on the site. So all the plan revisions in that letter are coming, and Goddard's preparing a cover letter to match the site plans and walk us through each change that will be submitted prior to the next hearing deadline.
so we'll put you on the July agenda.
Absolutely. We'll have everything in advance of that.
Did you hear the date of the meeting? Were you on board for the date?
I believe it was the 20th being moved to. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for making sure. I appreciate that.
And the one thing that I'm sure that you know the update, but Vinny and I were out and we found a marker. It looks like that there's six sections of fence that are in the conservation restriction.
That I also heard that this morning as well. So I know the surveyors were picking that up today, and that's actually going to be shown on the site plan, so we can take a look at that together.
Yeah, I can actually pull that up if you wanted to see. Where am I here?
Mhm.
Share my screen for just a second. All right, is it up? Can you see that?
Perfect.
So there's a bound here that marks the end of the conservation, or on the property line, the limit of the conservation easement, which is in this area where between Tom and myself here. And these sections of fence appear to be beyond the conservation easement limit. So that's the section that we were concerned with.
Certainly, yes. I appreciate the visual here. So when we get these on updated site plans, we'll take a look at their location, and we'll act accordingly.
Okay, and there's an area on the back side of this fence on the other side where there may have been some earth movement and clearing behind what was the chicken coop or the chicken shed. Just there's a line that goes from this bound kind of almost in line here that should be verified that any of the alteration that occurred out there is not within the easement area. So that's, I mentioned that to the surveyors as well.
Excellent. Yep. Yeah, I spoke with the surveyors today, and they told me that they had spoken with you and that everything that we needed will be shown on the plan. So I trust that should all be answered very, very soon.
Yeah, the surveyors seemed to understand exactly what we were looking for. So that was good.
They're excellent to work with. That's good to hear.
Any questions from the commission? I've got a public question coming in, but I want the commission to have first dibs on anything. We're going to see more details next month.
Is this the one with the, I'm just trying to make sure I got the location right. Is this the one where we had the issue with the driveway gate?
Yes.
Okay. And so
It's the back side.
backside, so you can't see it from the road
I
necessarily.
cannot see it from the road. No.
And we had a conversation about not doing that again, right?
Up in front, we did have a conversation. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Making sure I got the right property.
You do have the right property. Okay, public comment. I got a couple of hands here. Don Axline and David Pierce. So I'm going to bring Mr. Axline in first. Mr. Axline, you can talk. We can hear you.
Hi, how are you? I apologize. I'm on the streets of Boston, so it might be difficult to hear me.
No problems.
All right. So my comment is that I grew up in this town, grew up around this property. It's wetlands down the right side, down the back, and my property is behind the major portion of the wetlands. So this chicken coop that's in discussion was claimed to have been varianced in, and I witnessed with a bobcat them smashing over trees that were falling on anywhere, anyway, into the wetlands, into other people's property, with no considerations. So I have the wetlands directly behind my house. Since those 10 trees came down, the water level has increased 3 times, 5 times. So my concern is any more trees that come down, the wetlands now become my backyard or my house, and the trees that are 30 feet off my backyard now risk falling on my property because they're now submerged into water.
Okay. Are you? What is your address, sir? You're on the other side of.
I'm at 22 Beechwood Circle. So the primary wetlands are directly behind my house. So any trees that are taken down anywhere around the buffer zone, the wetlands are directly affected by, because they're absorbing the water when the leaves come out during this time of year. So if those trees don't exist, now I have water that is different times of year are now literally, I had no water anywhere near my property for 17 years that I've lived there. I now have water on trees that are on my property. Before, that would have been like 100 feet away from my property. So 10% of the trees come down in the buffer zone is a huge concern to me.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll do a second site visit for sure, and we'll make a point of getting to your property too and taking a look out and back. So we have a view too.
Thank you.
And Andrew's listening and he's nodding his head, so he's hearing some of the concerns too. So.
And I've also, since those trees came down for the chicken coop, I've had well water problems. I've had increased sediments. So my concern is what's going to happen going forward. My well is virtually on the back of my property, which is 100 feet from these wetlands.
Got your concerns and we'll factor them into our next visit. How's that?
Very good. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'm going to, unless you're all set, I'm going to move you out.
I'm all set.
Okay. Thank you. I got somebody else coming in. I've got David Pierce. Okay, Mr. Pierce, you should be able to talk.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. A little bit of an echo, but I can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry for the echo. Can I ask a question before I make my comments? Because perhaps these comments are more applicable in July, unless are we still considering the determination of applicability now, or have we already said we're going to push that to July?
We've opened the hearing and we pretty much said we're going to push it out to July, pending more information and more details on the plan.
Okay, well, so I'll just make a couple of very brief comments. I'll support Mr. Axline's comments. The conservation area that abuts this property has already been significantly impacted by work done to date, including the work done to clear trees to put in the chicken coop. Not only is the vernal pool significantly higher, there is almost no wildlife that we have seen in the last year through this property, which used to be very vibrant with deer, turkeys, fox, and other things. So those two observations caused me to believe that this property has already damaged the conservation area. I think the second point I would make is the application is incomplete from my perspective. And if you look at page 2 under the project summary and regulatory compliance under the WPA heading, it states, and I'll quote, "The wetland system is located downgrading of a neighbor's driveway and is inaccessible due to trespassing concerns. It's important to note that as the area was inaccessible to delineate, the associated site plans had used the elevations from the top of the bank to estimate the wetlands. So given this, it's an incomplete assessment, and I don't think it's properly supported by the analysis." And then third, and I think Mr. Hellwig made this observation, this project's been before this board before, most recently in February, to address a violation associated with a fence at the front of the property.
Mm-hmm.
And from my perspective, this demonstrates either a willful disregard for the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and Northborough Wetlands bylaw, or a lack of understanding, or both. In giving this product carte blanche to interfere with a section of the 100-foot buffer zone is not warranted. And so based on this, I strongly urge that this negative determination of applicability not be granted, and I appreciate the time.
Very good. Just one little clarification. I believe that the initial contact we had with the homeowner was for the front of the property.
Correct.
Not for the backside. So it was a little bit of a different focus, but your comments are certainly heard and understood.
Thank you.
Okay. Andrew, question for you. When you delineate the wetlands, you're going to do it the usual guarded way, right? You're going to actually walk it, and you're not going to take any estimates, as was mentioned, right?
we need to get permission to go onto the neighbor's property to flag those wetlands over there and to get those added to the plans. But as part of this project, that can absolutely be granted, I'm sure.
I would think so. Yes. All right.
Yes, certainly.
Very
And we'd be
good.
happy
Thank
to do
you.
so.
Any questions from the commission?
Craig, at the beginning, it was, the fence was in a conservation easement, if I understood that correctly.
Yes.
Who is the benefit? Who's the easement for? Do we hold it? Or we don't know? That's just sort of an odd thing.
I don't know. Fred seems to maybe know more about who owns the
It,
easement.
I believe, and you're testing my memory here, I believe that conservation easement was deeded to the town at the time the subdivision was approved and made public. So I believe that conservation easement, it's not a wetland area, but it is an easement that was deeded to the town. And by virtue of it being a conservation easement, it's supposed to be a no disturb zone. Not supposed to be any activity inside the easement.
Right. Okay, all right.
And I also heard, Fred, there's a vernal pool inside there someplace.
I heard reference to a vernal pool there, but I'm not aware of a vernal pool in that area. But clearly we can check the maps from the DEP to see if there is one there that we're not aware of. But I wasn't aware of one there before that statement.
All right. Very good. All right. I think we are, I don't see any more hands up. We're going to continue this, so I think we have a pretty good view of what we're looking for data. So we need a motion to continue the hearing for 93 Maynard Street.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Todd Helwig. Roll call. Tom Beals.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Continued. Thank you, Andrew. We'll see you next month. Any questions you have, Vinny's our new person, so feel free to contact him as much as you want.
Absolutely. Well, sounds good. Nice to meet you, Vinny, and thank you guys for your time. It's appreciated.
Andrew, I'd encourage you to get those plans in at least a week, preferably 2 before the meeting because of the holidays and vacation time coming up. So we can get a chance to review it and get the commission back out there if they want to.
Absolutely. I think that the July 20th meeting gives us adequate time to do that as well. And if you guys are looking to schedule a site walk, I can go through Vinny. We can definitely schedule that as well and get all of us up there together.
Yeah, we'll want to do that for sure. Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay.
Sign it, Jim yet.
Is Jim there?
I don't see.
Not yet. I've
I'm
got
still
a
here.
hand up. I've got a hand up here. Hold on.
That's Scott Cameron with his hand up. The phone number that ends in 839, I don't know if that's Jim or not. If that's you, Jim, could you raise your hand?
I believe if you're on a phone, it's *9. Raise your hand.
We want to move then to, we don't see Jim DeMeo here, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move to 3 NOIs for 75 Ridge Road, lot 1, 2, and 3. I think the discussion at this point in time is at the high level, it's still the same. Who are we bringing for that? Is that Scott Cameron? Is he one of them?
Yes, he is the one with his hand up. And then also, I think maybe
Benjamin
Benjamin
Amato?
Laguerre. Damon Amato, Benjamin Laguerre. I don't know who else would be there. I believe Ben Laguerre, Damon.
Melanie's in the background. That's a good thing.
Should just be Ben and Damon if they're both on.
Okay.
Yes, Damon is promoted to panelist. Who was the third person, Scott?
Ben Laguerre. You got him.
Yep, I'm on.
Okay. Damon, you with us?
Looks like he's on.
He's on, but yeah, I can only see a few.
I'm on.
Okay, 75 Bridge Road. Vinny and I did a little bit of a site walk out there the other day. I believe we already have an ANRAD approved, right? We know we did that a year or so ago. Yeah. Do we have no DEP number yet? Do you have that coming in? No. Okay. And I left my notes here said that based on what we saw, Fred and Vinny looking for some more information, and there was a question about public notices, and then we had an observation based on the plan we saw. So where should we start this discussion? Let's start with the public notices. Is it, we have not received the public notices back, or that hasn't?
Yeah, to date, I didn't receive the registered mail return receipt information required under the Northborough regulation.
So, Mr. Chair, good evening. This is Scott Cameron. I'm the representative for the applicant. I guess I did receive an email from Vincent earlier today regarding that. We had sent out everything via mailing certificate, and I had actually emailed you, Vincent, later just before the hearing. You're probably getting ready for it. But we had, this was kind of in the interim phase, and we were working with Mr. Litchfield on the application, get everything in, and we had been given direction that the certificate was acceptable. So we did all that. I did send that over to Vincent. And I guess I will start there.
Okay. I haven't seen that. So.
Actually, I can confirm that for you, Greg. I did speak with someone from Scott's office when they were preparing the NOI, and it was my direction to them that a certificate of mailing was adequate. It didn't come to light until I think today or yesterday that in fact the bylaw requires the registered return receipt to be submitted. It was reminded to me that we went to town meeting a few years ago to try to amend that, and that was not approved. And so therefore the registered return receipt mailings were required. And it was my mistake when I told them otherwise.
So that's one item that has to be rectified. What about more information needed? What was that, Vinny?
The additional information was the addressing the work as proposed was to have the perimeter barrier located very close to the wetlands as the standard, and all trash, because I guess there's a lot of trash. We saw it when we were out there. So a lot of trash to be removed at this site. So my preference was to have move the erosion barrier back to the 25-foot no disturb line, and then reach in and address any piles of material that needs to get taken care of. So it's more conservative. You're keeping the line as far away from the wetlands as possible and going in where you need to, and then putting in additional material down below. This is one that I spoke with Scott yesterday, I think it was, and he was going to come in with more information, a performance standard or something to provide a little more comfort for the commission. I mean, that may have been in what you sent this evening or earlier this afternoon, but I haven't seen that.
Good. Excuse me, through the chair, again, I think it would be helpful to present the project, and then because as part of this, I have a lot of information and photos and background on these processes that we anticipate. I guess I want to go back to the notification piece. I did actually send in a written request in response to Vincent's email to ask the commission to consider a waiver of that in lieu of the traditional certificate of mailing, which is covered under the Wetlands Protection Act, so that we can get the process started here tonight. I'm not expecting to close. We are more than happy to send out the green cards in between now and the July 20th meeting, I believe I heard. But I guess in the unique situation of the kind of the staffing turnover and Fred doing his best and us doing our best and Vincent being very thorough and seeing that today, I wanted to see if that would be something the commission would consider.
What's the commission's temperature on that?
If we're not closing, I don't see why it wouldn't hurt to get the ball rolling.
So we are going to move ahead, get the ball rolling, so to speak, and you're still going to follow up with the green card process. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Belts and suspenders. I want to make sure we're not leaving any stone unturned here. So
I like
So, Greg,
yes.
I don't know whether we can waive that or not, but I guess my thought is it's the applicant's risk, right?
Mhm.
So if it's a fatal defect, they can, someone wants to challenge it later, they can, but it's up to them.
I believe Todd's right. I think that it is the applicant's risk, but it is also something that the commission can waive as it's the local bylaw, not the state regulation that's in play here for not being met. So it's your purview to waive whatever you want within your bylaw.
Well, they're still going to produce the green cards, correct?
What they'll do is after tonight's, I'm speaking for Scott, sorry, Scott, but my expectation is that after tonight's meeting, they would send notice to all the people that they sent the original notice to, but by registered return receipt mail, and then present the green cards to you next month. So even if someone were to say they didn't get notice about tonight's meeting, they would clearly have it officially by next month. So I agree with Kelly that there's no harm in at least getting the ball rolling, and let's look at the overall picture because it is a rather, I wouldn't say complicated site, but it's involved.
Right.
Yeah, I don't care, but if the mailing, if the abutters don't have the correct notices per our bylaw, we don't have jurisdiction to do anything. So I don't, again, if the applicant's okay going forward, I am, but I don't know that it's, without its problems. I don't think there are problems. I think they're their problems and they can waive them, not so much us. But I'm happy to go forward. I've spoken enough.
Scott, you're tuned in here?
We have no issues going forward. It was advertised in the newspaper. It was, we did the certified mailings. It will be another redundant measure to send out the green cards. So we're fine if the commission is. We would like to make some progress because we are kind of on the clock here, and I'll go into that in the hearing.
Okay, we'll move ahead, but I just want to make sure that we're still going to go through the green card process. We're just going to delay it until next time. Fine.
Yep,
okay.
we'll send those
All
out.
right. Then
Yep.
let's talk. Let's show us what you have.
Okay. Would it be okay if I shared my screen?
Fine by me.
While that's happening, for the record, I want to properly introduce myself. My name is Scott Cameron. I'm civil engineer with the Moore and Cameron Group at 25 Canoes Ave in Haverhill. The applicant is here tonight, Damon Amato and Ben Legary. And we have kind of a unique property. This is a very interesting one in my 20 years. For those familiar with this, we have actually been working on this since 2009, pre-pandemic. If for those of you on the commission, we filed an ANRAD application in 2019. The commission issued an ORAD on November 19th, 2019. And as part of that determination of the wetland resource limits, we identified a bordering wetland edge just up gradient from the Bartlett Pond high water line. This surrounds the property, which is on a peninsula. And then inside within the property, there was a small isolated wetland, which becomes jurisdictional under the bylaw, but not under the Wetlands Protection Act. And the property itself, when I say it's unique, what a beautiful property, what a beautiful area. And then you go into it, it's clear right out of the start when you see the PT Cruiser with, I believe, a tree laid across it to the left. This has been a pretty intensely used property. There are standing in various states of repair 8 dwellings. There was somebody residing in the dwellings up until 2019 when the last person moved out. Since then, there have been people kind of on the property squatting and using it. But as you walk around, you see the intensity of use. There is trash dumping, debris, various structures, cesspools, many of which are open with no cover on them, shallow wells pumping out of the pond itself, deep wells. We found at least one artesian well, and I'll have some pictures to walk you through in a moment. And so we kind of came into this looking at it as, all right, well, it was a pretty big cleanup to get this even back to a state where we can start to think about, redeveloping it. And of course, that cost is factored in how we go about that. But from your perspective as the Conservation Commission, your interest, what is striking, you can see the massing of I kind of highlighted the brown and the gray. The brown is the dwelling structures, the gray is the driveway accessing all them, but there's a lot of focus right along the edge of the wetland. In fact, it's right up to, there's a structure, for example, here by flag WF42, which is right on the bank. And I'll show you some pictures, but a lot of that existing use is right up on the wetland edge. As you come around these dwellings as well, right up cleared. And just to walk you through a few of the slides, a few kind of representative images of what this looks like. This is the dwelling that was actually occupied. Just give you, so this is going back to the site plan. This is the dwelling here in the bottom right of the screen, and you can see it here. The asphalt comes up. You can start to see some of the, they're occupying it. This was probably the best kept, upkeep on the property. But as you go through the property, this is moving around. This is the next dwelling around. You can see the trash. A lot of this can be hand removed, but a lot of it is larger and heavier. But you'll see this, and what we don't know is the depth of this garbage. I did find one pile which we estimate was at least 8 feet deep. It was mounded up in the back of a property. It's and I don't know if I have a photo of that.
I think we saw those are the white trash bags, right?
Straight, if you go straight out the driveway, there's a tree on top of one of the structures, and there's just a mound of garbage. I think there's a mattress in there. There's all sorts of stuff, but this is pretty representative. This actually, you can see, this was another structure, we believe, and you can see the remnants of a foundation here. Obviously, this is completely collapsed at this point. And you can see this is that shed that's right on the edge of the pond here. The structure, see the garbage going around. This is an example of just how long it's been there. This tree has grown up and died and fallen over, having grown up through an old sink, cast iron sink. Picnic table, keg barrel, you get another structure here. Table, another structure. And this is just the driveway coming in. And you see straight ahead where the daylight's coming in. This area here, straight ahead, which on the plan. So that's looking as the plan comes up. So that's kind of looking out in this area here, which I'm kind of highlighting. This whole area in the middle of the property, when you see that red circle pop up. Probably just kind of crude, but that area it's pretty well cleared of trees in that area. There was a lot of activity going on in there with regards. There seemed to be a kind of a hunting operation going on where they're cleaning their kills. There's a lot of garbage. A lot of the trees down. There's a stockpile of stumps and old rotting wood trees. So this area was kind of open. And this kind of gives you a feel for it, what's going on with the property. Here's another image. You can see some of the trash mounding up here. Looks like a rain barrel with some coolers. Residential use, right? So there's an old doghouse, actually, looks like right there, maybe a goat house, little pen for farm animals. So that kind of sets the table. This has been used like this for decades. We had met with the neighborhood. We had a neighborhood meeting back in 2019, and they corroborated this has been the way for a long time. And at that time, we were actually looking into doing more of either a subdivision or a two-family type of project, and we had presented some options. We were even going so far as recently as this past fall and winter, talking to the planning board about possibly a zoning amendment to do more of an open space type of cluster development. At the time, we were considering 5 or 6 homes in the property, either in a single or two-family or combination thereof. And going through the process, we really, we turned over a lot of stones and options. And at the end of the day, we kind of fell back on, all right, look, single family is going to be the best, highest and best use for this property. And that's eventually where we ended up. I did want to point out too, that last picture that might've popped up, we did do some soil testing out here. The soil on the site is coarse sand and gravel with a sandy loam weathering layer above that, and then your loam on the surface. Just a snapshot of the property. Because that sand, the water table was very consistent. It was coincident with the water level of Bartlett Pond. Pretty consistent. Sorry, somebody just walked in my office. So we did check the soil. So we did a series of test pits out on the property as well, just to exploratory to figure out what we're dealing with. So that kind of sets the table a little bit to what we're looking at. And so how do we take a property in this condition with the obviously without rendering it valueless with the cost of cleanup, make sure that the family does get some value of the property, albeit modest, and we balance the cost of cleaning it up, which, we have what we can see on the surface, and then we have what's below the surface. And I mentioned, we are not quite sure the depth of the garbage in some of these areas. So let's back up a little bit before we talk about the cleanup and the mitigation. The project itself, I mentioned we looked at a single family residential use. So the property has the land area and the frontage to accommodate 3 single family dwellings. And that's what I brought up in front of you on the site plan here. And as frontage lots, we could potentially go in with 3 separate driveways. We would have to, likely we would be in here asking for some relief to alter or do something to cross through this between the isolated wetland and the pond, which we didn't find desirable. And we felt it was appropriate here to go the additional step with the planning board to not just do an A&R, but to propose a common driveway. And this we felt really minimized the footprint of impact, especially along the frontage of Ridge Road, which frankly, the frontage, except for the driveway, is really one of the areas of the property that has been relatively untouched. So there is a good forested buffer about 50 foot wide, 50 to 60 foot wide along that entire frontage. And so we did feel this was a way to minimize, from a traffic standpoint, curb cuts, but from environmental, minimize the amount of pavement, minimize the amount of impact, clearing, and really keep this consolidated. So I want to let you know the other permits we're filing for. Primarily, the big one is the common driveway special permit. We would have the A&R to create the lots, and then we'd have stormwater, Board of Health review, going through the other technical reviews in the project. And the 3 lots created, we'd each have their own driveway off the common driveway. The Northborough common driveway regulations do have standards for that. They do require a fire apparatus to be able to turn around on the property. That's why you see this cul-de-sac. They do require a certain width, which we're actually going to push and seek some waivers to reduce the width down as minimal as possible. So we're looking at requesting a width from 22 feet down to 18 feet to really minimize that pavement footprint. And each of these dwellings would be able to accommodate up to 5 bedrooms. They would all be served by septic systems. It's a really well-drained soil. So we don't have any concerns with the ability to discharge in compliance with Title V in the Northborough Board of Health regulations. And then we designed, also as part of this, we designed a stormwater management system in compliance with the Stormwater Management Handbook, Mass DEP Stormwater Management Handbook. Albeit this is a small residential project, which under the handbook, this is typically exempt as only 3 lots, but we're adding a common driveway. We did make an effort to design this in full compliance with the handbook. I will note that all the runoff from the paved areas we have graded to come back towards the cul-de-sac. And then the cul-de-sac is super elevated to pitch towards the center, where we would have a bioretention basin here and another bioretention basin here. And they just be connected by a pipe underneath the driveway. So it's just storage that would be seeded with a wetland mix and expected to grow back in and utilize plant root uptake and the other benefits of bioretention in treating the stormwater, as well as doing mitigation for your post-development runoff. There's a slight increase in impervious area, although not much, because of the intensity use in the property. So we didn't have to do a whole lot of mitigation. And as you can see, I'll just zoom in here and walk you around. What we're proposing here is to really pull back the work and where there were impacts in the 25-foot setback, restore that, and where there and then not encroach back into it afterwards. So you can see the 25, we have this thick black dash line. That would be your limit of work silt fence. And then you have this orange, which is the 25, and then your 35 here, which is the no structure. And so we're doing the restoration. We're pulling all this back. We're creating opportunities to put in some bioretention stormwater management in a low impact manner. And as we go around, you can see, again, the limit of work is all pulled back. We're removing the structures, we're removing the fill, the debris, the trash, all of that, and come back around. So single family, we can certainly get into a little more conversation on technical if you have any, but what's of interest to me tonight in particular, and Vincent identified this in his letter, his email that he sent out. How are we gonna execute this? Because I think, from my perspective, we can propose all this work in order to restore this buffer zone and get this back to basically a clean condition. It's the execution of that work that's really important. I'm not going to go through it or present my written recommendation or a starting point anyways, because I just really finished that a short while ago. But I'll walk you through it briefly, just our thoughts. With respect to the 25, we really want to try to minimize any impact in there. And while it is intensely used through a lot of those areas, I think we can get in and do a lot of the work from outside the 25 while reaching in with the arm of an excavator, a flat grading bucket versus the teeth, and also maybe a grapple hook on the end of that bucket so we can grab material, pick it, and remove it out, versus having to dig it or be in there with a machine where you're digging up a churn. You can see there is still some natural forest bed here, and we really want to try to maintain that as best we can through this area. This will also help preserve any trees that are growing in here. We don't want to be working in and around doing any excavations. Where we can handpick, we handpick. Where we can get in and minimize excavating out, or where we do have to excavate out, for example, the cesspools, we have foundations that have to be removed. We have other random excavations that look like things might have been started and then never finished, that we want to rake back and put back. We would backfill those, and you'll see in my correspondence what we're recommending is having a stockpile of organic loam on site that we backfill in the disturbed areas, and then we seed it with a specific seed mix, which will be good for a shady area like this. And then Vincent mentioned earlier too about the silt fence. Because of the degree of material and what I expect is anywhere where this fill is located, we are going to have bare earth underneath that. We're going to have to get that out. I really want to have a silt control along the edge of the pond. This would be kind of your first line of defense. And this is the first work we're doing. So we put in, I'm proposing a straw wattle or a hay tube that would be staked, which is, we're not having to trench in a silt fence and disturb right along the edge of the pond. We would lay this down. You can see the area is really flat, and we have a sandy coarse material here. So we're not as concerned about silts and fine sediments and steep slopes where you might have high risk for discharge. This I would consider as a low risk for discharge. So we have that in. We're doing the cleanup in that inner 25 first thing. That's the first thing that happens. We stage the area kind of outside the buffer zone. We work our way in so we get access. We do this restoration work. And then as soon as that's done, then what I would call the permanent silt control for the construction project would go in. And that's what I was showing that follows in the thick black line around the limit of work. So once we have that in, then we never go back into that 25-foot zone. That remains, it's starting to reestablish itself right out of the gate. And we can, there might be some maintenance, if a tree or something happens or just an area doesn't take, we go back in to clean that up and make sure we get that established. But that should be set it and forget it for the rest of the project. Let it do its thing. And then we focus on the rest of the construction in a more typical, sequence in construction best practices. So again, just to rehash, challenging site. We've been picking away at this. Fred and other predecessors at Town Hall. We have been looking at every way to figure out how to clean up this site. So you're seeing this for the first time. We have been working on concepts and iterations on this, which I would say there's been about 6 or 7 different iterations and concepts on how we can get to the finish line with this. And so here we are. So I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I'm happy to do my best to entertain and address those tonight. If not, I can take notes, come back at the next meeting, and I'll, I guess, Mr. Chair, remand this back to you on next steps.
Very good. Thank you, Scott. A good presentation. I attended that first meeting with the neighbors back a year and a half or so ago when you were.
Yeah.
And if I remember, the overall feeling was outstanding. It was going to be, it's going to be a giant net improvement to what's there now. So different approach, but still I would say the same sentiment would exist. So that, it's going to look a lot better, several years out than it certainly does now. So there's no question there. I do like your first approach around your concerns about protection, the idea of the straw wattles. The question I have here is, do you think there's any risk of underground pollution with any oil tanks or anything, or is this too old a site for that?
So that's an interesting question. We have posed the same to the landowners, and quite frankly, there is no easy answer to that. There is one oil tank above ground that we've observed. There are propane tanks above ground that we have observed. But this is one of those aspects, until we get in and we start doing the work, I can't tell you for sure. If we run into any one of those tanks, there is an LSP that Damon and Ben work with. They will have to be on board anyways, because they have to do, before they even touch one of these buildings, you have to do an asbestos screening and get that certified by DEP. So there's certain steps that have to happen. That professional will be on board for the project. So if they run into a tank, there's a removal process. It has to be pumped out. They have to check for leaks. And then, if there's soil, they have to do that work. It would be no different than if you're selling your home and your oil tank was leaking in the basement and leaked through your concrete slab. You got to go through the same process. The good news is this is residential. So we're not talking about thousands of gallons of oil in tanks. We're talking about small, 250 gallon, tanks or smaller here. So, I guess the best thing I can say is it's got to follow the other regulations that address that particular situation.
Good. My last comment I have right now is just on the something that Vinny I noticed on the plan is that you've got a couple of points where the decks are right on the 35, and you may want to consider pulling those back a foot or so if you can. So
Okay.
that's what I have. Any other questions from the commission? Comments?
Good question. I just want to make sure I'm reading it right. Am I reading the plan right that the 3 houses are all 5-bedroom houses and the one in the middle is over 6,000 square feet?
That's the finished floor area, correct?
That's a big house.
That's the applicant's house. So Damon, I failed to mention, Damon lives in town, grew up in town, and he's looking to relocate from actually the other side of Bartlett Pond to that home. So he's a Northborough lifer. But yeah, so one of the
all
again,
3 or 5.
yeah, so we set this up to go up to 5 bedrooms, but no greater. Frankly, the septic systems are I'm kind of taking a worst case scenario here, right? I'm planning for the worst. They could come back with final designs and it could be a 4-bedroom, but we're planning out the worst case scenario here. But as I mentioned earlier, there are, you know, with respect to the wetlands interests, you know, you're not looking at it, but the fact of the matter is there is an economic kind of component to this, right? So the land value is very low. This is one of those where you can check the box of, you know, the heirs of this estate are not getting a lot out of this deal compared to what we see on other more, you know, cleaner or different type properties. And there's a considerable cost, which, you know, I don't want to talk, you know, we don't know exact numbers, but we're not talking 10, we're not talking 100, we're talking probably multiple hundred, you know, north of 200,000 is what we're expecting for a cleanup cost here. And we got to figure out how to make that work if we only have 3 homes to justify that cost, or to make up that. It's just, there's a balancing act here where we got to kind of, as actually somebody told me today, we got to kind of break some eggs before we can get to an omelet. You know, we got to kind of undo what has been done over the last, you know, half a century.
Todd, you've got a question. Before I get to you, Damon Amato has his hand up. He's one of the applicants. I'd like to hear what he says.
Thank you. Just to reiterate what Scott says, I actually live, the left-hand house there, I can actually see that from my house across Bartlett Pond on Maple Lane. But just to answer the question, I realize we kind of put essentially what looks like the biggest houses we could there. But I think you guys would agree that, you know, when we actually go to build them, it's a lot easier to go back and build something smaller than it would be to go back and ask to build something bigger, which is why we designed it that way. But I mean, I'll tell you, I know the middle house I plan on having that be my house, but I don't have any intention on building a 6,000 square foot house. That's too expensive.
Yeah, Damon, don't get me wrong, but, or I may be wrong, but you were also, that 6,000, most likely a lot of these square footages would incorporate some of the basements, I think, which are going to be walkout.
That is true. Yeah.
So from the front, you know, he's kind of predicting the worst case scenario, you know, because typically a basement would not be counted towards square footage, but because there could be a walkout, we're anticipating a building inspector potentially calling the basement finished square footage, as well as above the garage, you know, space like that. So that 6,000 square feet is not going to look like you guys are thinking 6,000 square feet. And most likely it's going to be a lot less. I think Damon's trying to anticipate if I have a restriction and I go to build it out, you know, and they count my basement, this would be the worst case scenario for square footage, I guess.
Okay. Answer your question, Kelly?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Todd Helwig.
Yeah, I guess the question I had is you have 3 notices of intent, one for each lot. I'm thinking there should be 4, right? One for the entire site, because you've got one property on which you're doing all of the work, or you know, a bunch of work, like the cleanup work, and then you've got some common infrastructure, sort of like a subdivision. And what I don't want to be is trapped in a situation where you're asking us to release one lot when we think that there's problems on two of the other lots that are unresolved.
That's a great question, great comment. This kind of goes, this is one of the challenges with the orders being on the title. So right now, the properties don't exist, right? It's under one ownership. The book and page of reference that these would get recorded to end up being on the entire title. So even though we're saying lot one, when they record it, it's recorded to the entire estate. There's one deed, it's one ownership. So it actually encumbers the whole property. So the way I've handled this in the past, and the reason why we did 3 instead of 1, is we did want to give the commission the ability to close out each lot as they are finished. However, I get and understand your concern about, you know, we got one bad apple out of the 3, right? One of them's just dragging behind. How do we ensure that especially the 25-foot, you know, we're expecting to come in, we have to do the common driveway regardless. The planning board's going to require that. We can't do any of these lots. They probably won't even let us pull a building permit until that's done. So we're planning to come in and get everything done and prepped and ready for homes as one project. And there are a couple ways that we have in the past ensured that the work that kind of goes through, you know, that all the lots kind of need to get done. One is we stitch together the permits in the conditions, where we're basically in the conditions you say, you know, see this file number and see this file number. And we identify in that the common work. So this would be the 25, this would be the erosion controls, this would be the SWIP, the stormwater. I would include in there because that it's one project. This covers the common driveway. And then in that way, they're all tied together. As each one finishes up, if there is work outstanding on the other 2 and you're not comfortable releasing it, but we're in that situation where, you know, it needs to close, it needs to move on, and that lot is done. Another mechanism, and I don't know if the commission has done this, you can also request a performance bond. And this is what the applicant's gonna have to do this for the road, for the common driveway. They're gonna have to provide a bond or a guarantee that if the builder for the first lot here takes off and he leaves it unfinished, the commission can hire somebody to come in and do that work. So there's a couple different fail safes. I don't feel that a 4th permit on the property would do anything other than it's going to create a title nightmare, because no attorney is going to close on a lot and we're going to end up having to come in for a release. So I think in order to avoid that title piece, which it been through enough times, it opens up all sorts of cans of stuff. I won't even say worms. I wish they were worms. It gets ugly.
So I think you make a good point, because if we were to issue the orders today with all of it being in one title reference, you'd have 3 open orders on each lot, which might be worse. I guess it's something we need to think about, right? I'm not saying we need to make a decision on this now, but you understand my concern at least, right? I don't want to let a lot go unless there's a problem on one of the others. And as long as we get there, I'm okay. I don't necessarily need to insist on a mechanism.
Yeah, I think we want you guys to have your protections, and we put this on the applicant to make sure the job gets done right. I don't want to be in that position either, because you guys are going to be calling me.
I'm good.
I guess I'll chime in, because my expectation is that it would have been one notice of intent with the ability for the commission to issue partial orders, partial releases for their certificates at the end, provided the work on that particular lot was done, and they wouldn't release all 3 until all the work was done on all 3 of the lots. I understand you have different concerns with your title issues, and maybe that's not the best approach. I'm not quite sure why it wouldn't work, but again, it's your prerogative to file however you like. There is the town does have a stormwater bylaw a land disturbance and stormwater bylaw that would kick in here because you will be disturbing more than 40,000 square
Mhm.
feet on a common ownership situation. I'm just not quite sure how we're going to apply the stormwater permit to the order. We'll probably have to apply it to each of the lots, even though individually they're not going to disturb more than 40,000 square feet, but in total you
Yeah.
will. So we'll have to kind of cross that path. I'm still doing a little research on how to address the permitting part of that.
Yep. Through the chair, can I offer another suggestion there?
Go ahead, Scott.
So the stormwater bylaws, they're brand new. Every town's dealing with this. We don't have case law. We don't have anything behind that. We don't have these things figured out. What I'm running into for issues is, on projects like this, a stormwater permit gets issued, and all of a sudden the lots are sold to 3 different entities, right? Entity 1, lot 1 has no idea there's a stormwater permit in place. Shame on them. They should know, right? But they don't. And then they find out afterwards when the enforcement or something comes in that they have to comply with it. But meanwhile, the developer that's maybe doing the other 2 lots can't go on the property to fix it. So what I would recommend, and this benefits the town and the applicant, is that if you don't have one, I think I might have an example, but you have basically an acknowledgement that when they sell the lots, that they are in receipt of this permit and that they are aware of it, and they are taking an equal responsibility in maintaining it for their lot. So basically there's a way to pass the baton to the next owner, if that makes sense.
It does. I think it's complicated and it's not going to get figured out tonight. I think that between what's going to go on with the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board set of permits, there'll be the appropriate mechanisms to make sure that that gets carried forward and somebody's responsible for the maintenance on your drainage system. And that's primarily what we're interested in, make sure that someone is aware of their responsibility. It's not as simple as each lot's going to have one bioretention area that they're going to be responsible for. So they're all going to have to be responsible for maintaining the system as a whole. And that involves, gutters and downspouts into dry wells and the bioretention areas and their own septic systems. They're all going to have responsibilities for various things. So I think we can work it out. I just thought it would have been easier with one NOI, but that's okay. I'm not an attorney, so I can't really speak to it. And I certainly don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be in the end when the project looks exactly like this out in the field. So as opposed to what it looks like now. So I think that we should move forward to next month and start ironing out the details. And I'm sure some of that will, like I said, come into play and fall into place once you get to the planning board and we start to move forward towards the resolution on the final permitting.
Good. Fred, I think we faced something similar to this on the West Street development, where we worked with the developer and the attorney to put in some agreement to the title where there'll be responsibility for cleaning out the drainage and so forth.
I think there was a homeowners association
Yeah.
that was a result of that,
So-
and that's certainly what I anticipate will shake out here.
Yep, 100%. There will be an
Okay.
HOA.
Any more questions from the commission? No? I don't see any public comment. I don't see any hands up. So I think we're good here. So Scott, we're going to move forward and continue to July 20th.
Yep.
And you've got some comments from the commission to take a look at. You certainly know Vinny's phone number, and it sits right next to Fred, so you can get a 2-for-1 sometimes. So let's move forward with a continuation.
Okay. And just so before, if I could, Mr. Chair, just so I have my punch list, I did submit a proposed construction sequence in kind of a means and methods for the 25-foot zone. So Vincent has that. You can distribute if you would like hard copies. I can certainly mail those in. I'm going to send out the green card notices So we'll have that done. I'll provide those ahead of the next meeting. And is there anything else, I guess, outstanding? I know Vincent said he wanted to look at the stormwater design still. We do have some comments from fire, DPW, in planning that we're looking at now. We just got them in yesterday. And we're going to be at the planning board next week.
The only other one, Scott, was a comment I made about the decks being on the 35.
Oh, the decks. Yep, I'll look at that.
No, I think there were 3 or 4 points, but you can certainly pick them out. So, okay, then we need a motion to continue these three NOIs until July.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Kelly. We'll just vote. This is for all 3 NOIs to be continued. Tom Beals.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay.
Thank you so much for your time tonight, everyone. Have a good
Scott.
score.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
I think we are good. All right. I believe, is that Jim? Is that the Jim we're looking for, Jim DeMeo?
I believe it is.
Okay, let's bring him in. I'll get that done now. Then we'll flip down to 71 Coolidge Circle and Lincoln Street, and after that. Okay, Jim, I'm promoting you to panelist. Jim, I think it's something you gotta do on your end.
Jim, I don't know if you have an external microphone connected right now, but in the bottom left on the Zoom where the mute button is, there's a little gray up arrow and you can change your microphone input. So maybe see if that's the issue there.
Yeah, he's in, but he's muted, and then no video.
I see him as unmuted, but I don't
He's
hear
unmuted,
anything.
right? Yeah.
So that's why I'm assuming it's a microphone issue, input issue.
How's that? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're a little bit faint, but I can hear you.
Is that better?
That's better.
How's that?
That's perfect.
Oh, great. Excellent.
Welcome, Jim.
Okay, my first question, has everyone had time to review Edmund Hill in Mount Pisco?
I certainly did. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll start with Edmund Hill and just a few general things. Because it's a bird assessment, I have on my staff a wildlife biologist, Chris Sturgeon, and he went out on both sites. He spent one morning at Edmund Hill and 2 days at Mount Pisgah, listening to birds, identifying birds. And so what's in the plan is actual birds that were either identified by the wildlife biologist. So that really fully complies with the bird assessment. I'm going to start with stand 1. Stand 1 was primarily a pine stand with hardwood, and basically the stand is on the perimeter of the forest, and it's 35.1 acres. It's a very dense forest with a lot of volume. We recorded 37,000 board feet to the acre, which is very, very high. because it was along the perimeter of the property, it was very, very dense to moderate invasive species, which is problematic. There were an occasional dead oak from spongy moth, which was once known as gypsy moth. So every time I say spongy moth, we're talking about gypsy moth. They recently changed the name. There was an occasional damaged tree or down tree because of wind or ice damage and snow damage from the past. The stand is definitely overstocked with large diameter trees. There are a number of high-use trails. We all know that. They're used regularly. I must have counted 15, 20 hikers every time I was out there. So those were the general conditions. My recommendation is, number one, to treat the invasives. In fact, if the invasives aren't treated, I wouldn't even think about harvesting any of the forest because of the spread of the invasives will take place, and it would overcome the site. Because it's a high-use recreation area, I would try to treat about 20 acres of the 35. I think we would try to get the public to see the benefit of managing the forest to create more space for these large diameter trees that we want to bring into the future. And hopefully that they would come to some agreement to try something. And what I'm calling for is, on this particular site, is to basically selectively thin it, and leave the biggest and best trees. I'd like to see a diversified forest out there, so I wouldn't look at just having a pine forest, even though it's primarily pine. I would try to keep as many hardwood and oak species out there as possible to have a diversified forest for the future. It's paramount that we don't interrupt the trail system, so I would not use the trail system as access, but we'd have to cross trails periodically and post signs to be careful, caution, harvesting ongoing, on and on. So we'd want the trails open at all time with the understanding, posting at the trailhead, that there's harvesting going on and for public safety. So that's stand one. Any comments on stand one? No concern? Okay, stand two is a tremendous oak, hardwood, pine forest. I plotted it as 54.61 acres. There's approximately 15,000 board feet to the acre. Because this oak forest is not it's a more interior forest, not on the edges of the property, so there was really very light invasive species, which is really good. The downside is there's a huge amount of mortality, both individual trees and large groups of dead oak because of the spongy moth, and it's substantial. I recorded 17 trees per acre of very, very large trees, which is problematic. There are a few trees that were blown down or damaged, the tops are damaged because of weather conditions. The live portion of the forest is slightly overstocked, so it's in fairly good condition, but it is slightly overstocked. And these are very, very large diameter trees. Oak are very demanding for nutrients, and so they need a lot of space to grow. Dan pointed this out. There's good regeneration in the understory because there's so much mortality. Again, high-use trails. So my recommendation is to protect the trails at all costs. Don't interrupt them. If we're going to access the property to do some harvesting, that we cross the trail and post them, same as stand one. I would also treat the invasives. They're out there, and if we don't treat the invasives, they're going to spread naturally because of the amount of sunlight due to the heavy mortality in the oak. I'm calling we're trying to salvage about 30 acres. First to salvage that oak in single tree selection, a very light single tree selection, thinning where the oak are overstocked, again, leaving the most spectacular large diameter forest. There's one thing that I admitted. I noted there was some fire damage in a number of trees throughout the oak stand. So there must have been at least 1 or 2 fires up there over time. And some trees had blown down. There were some trees that were cut along the trail because they had fallen across the trail, and there were fire scars in the interior of the tree. The bole was hollow, and you can see there was charred material. So there was a fire out there. At the last meeting, there was a suggestion about having some early successional habitat edge, naturally because of the large mortality in the oak, and some of them are at least half an acre of all the oak trees are dead. If we go ahead and do the salvage, there will be edge in wildlife habitat, early successional habitat, and I would leave some snags. I would leave as many live trees as possible in these gaps in the forest. Okay, then there was about 10.75 acres of wetland and water. And again, these were in the wetland where it's forested. It was very, very large diameter. There wasn't very much oak, a lot of pine, a lot of red maple, black cherry, again, large diameter. And I'm calling for natural processes. I would not go into the wetland and try to do anything. Let the natural processes prevail over time in the wetland. So that's what I found in Edmund Hill, and those are my recommendations. Before I move on, Dan Clark provided some editorials, and I briefly looked at them early this afternoon, and I can fix all the editorials. He did a great job, and I have no issue with updating the narrative based on his comments. So does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
So I have a question. I'm just curious, was there any signs of needle disease in the pines?
I didn't, that's a good question. I didn't see, they looked really healthy. I didn't, these trees were very, very large and vigorous. I didn't see any health issues within the pine that when I was out there. But you're right, there's a lot of needle blights and problems going on, but at this time I didn't see an issue when I was out there.
Good. So my other question, I guess, would be, in salvaging the oak, is there any value to that, or is that, I guess, is that going to be a cost too?
No, there is. The sooner, here's the situation, the sooner we try to salvage the oak, the higher the value, because it starts to deteriorate from the edge inward. There's a family, they own a company called Kennebuck Lumber out of Maine. They bought a series of mills up in New Hampshire too, and I work with them regularly. They buy this dead oak, and they pay fairly well for it. They use it for timber ties and wetland mats, and so that there is a market for them, which is really good. And unless the economy really deteriorates more than it is now, then at least in the near future, it's very favorable. I think the greatest challenge is trying to get the public on board that this is something that that they would see as desirable and a benefit. My biggest concern is treating the invasives. I have to tell you that we'll have to use chemical, and I understand, I value folks that just have a large concern about using chemicals, and that's going to be our challenge. And if we can't use chemicals, then I don't recommend any harvesting at all, because you're just going to spread the invasives, and you're gonna have a wall of invasives throughout your property. If we leave it alone, it'll spread, but spread very slowly. If we harvest, it'll accelerate, and it's putting more gasoline on the fire by opening up the forest and allowing the invasive species to spread throughout your forest. And that, that's I have some strong feelings about that, obviously.
Yeah. Jim, another question, I guess, is what do we have for invasives?
Okay, off the top of my head, we had burning bush, multiflora rose, Japanese barberry, oriental bittersweet, and there was some old growth burning bush, wing anonymous. There was some major amounts of that, especially by the homes. I mean, some of it was 10, 12, 14 feet tall. So that was, those were the species I identified. And it's thick, it's very, there's a lot of it.
So I'm sorry, again, if with like the burning bush, would that actually need to be cut and harvested and then sprayed?
No, there's at the right time, there's chemicals that are very effective with burning bush, but it has to be hit repeatedly. It's a stubborn species. I've treated it a number of times through contracts. I haven't treated it personally, but I have contractors that do this work. And if they do a late August, early September application with the right chemical, with a surfactant, it can really beat it back, but it usually takes a couple of efforts to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it is very stubborn.
So I guess another further question, and not to hold you to that, but in regards to the invasive management costs versus what income may come from the salvage, does that balance out, or?
It might break even, but what I get a lot of grants for my clients. I'm very good at securing grants, and I don't know which grants the town might qualify. There's a wildlife habitat grant through Division of Fisheries and Wildlife right now, and I just don't know who can qualify for some of these grants. But I would pursue DCI used to have a grant program for towns, and I would pursue first. I know Natural Resource Conservation Service, the federal government, won't give grants to towns, okay, for whatever reason. But I would pursue a grant to do the invasive species, to try to do some habitat work, and because that's the only way to be cost effective, to get money from the outside to support doing the work.
Great, thank you, I appreciate it.
No problem. Anyone else have questions or comments?
Hey, Jim. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Just a general comment. I'm really excited. I think this is a great step forward for some active management on town-owned land. I don't know how much this type of stuff's been done in the past, but I'm excited to do this and also introduce the idea of forest management to town residents. I'm not sure they're as up to speed on all the benefits that can be derived from active forest management. So I applaud all of us for pursuing this. I think in the end, it'll be a real benefit to, this sense of stewardship that I have for these town-owned lands, that, it's great to own them and protect them, but to really invest time and money into managing them, I think is well worth it.
Agreed.
I just had a quick question for you, Jim. You said that the burning bush is a stubborn species and needs to be dealt with multiple times, and it's best to do in, the fall, late summer. Are you saying that additional applications would have to be done annually, or can multiple applications be done in 1 year?
No, we would time the application based on the best time to treat the burning bush. We can treat the rest of the species very effectively right into September. But so I would not, I had a couple experiences when we treated, actually it was a Division of Fisheries and Wildlife land. I had a project with them and we treated the burning bush in June, July, and it was very ineffective. So we learned that treating it later on and the rest of the species follow suit. We use the correct chemical with surfactant and there won't be any issue with the other species involved. But we want to get the right timing for the burning bush.
My question is, if you treat them in the right time, do you have to go back the following year and treat it again and then again the following year to treat it again to make sure the application takes proper control of the plants?
I think if we do it, here's my advice. We do it before we harvest. Then we harvest and then we wait a year and do it again. So we catch any seed that's germinating. But both times we want to have, we get a contractor that really does a top-notch job, gets up to that 95% mortality. We just have to emphasize that we really want to get the mortality at a very high level both times. But we want to do it before we harvest, so we're not spreading it while there's any harvesting going on. And then we wait a couple of years for the sunlight to germinate other seed, and then we hit it again. And it'll be very dramatic because now it's very intense. After we hit it, people forget, and it'll be very light. And there'll be some invasive species, but it'll be on a very light side, if any at all.
It's okay.
Fred, that was a question. I had a question that Tom touched on, which was the next step piece. It's we got a grant for Jim to do the assessment, which is what's been done now. And then there's the next step, which is looks like there's two sides. One is a cost side, to take out the invasives, thin the forests, so forth. Then there's a revenue side, which is sell some of the wood to some lumber yard that will reimburse the conservation fund or something with that dollars. Is that all done through grants too, or is that something we've got to go after funding for, or is that what's the next step, I guess, to implement the assessment?
The first step, you'll have to go out again and contract for a consulting forester, and it has to be competitive, and you have to follow the purchasing, the correct purchasing procedures to secure a forester, then come up with a plan. Part of the plan is to try to, number one, secure a grant to conduct the work, especially the invasive species control. You'll have to have at least 1 or 2 public meetings to explain what's going on in Edmund Hill Conservation Area and try to build a consensus that there's some opportunity and need with the invasives to do the work. And as Dan said, to talk about stewardship and the importance of managing the forest and the benefits of managing the forest. Then there's the implementation phase of doing the layout, getting the contracts out, competitive bidding, all those good things, and the execution and monitoring of the project. But I think, I was a long-term federal and state employee. You have to meet all the purchasing requirements and do it the correct way.
We have some of that. We have some expertise that in-house now too, so that's a good thing. Okay. Is Pisker a separate discussion, or is that inclusive? Or
no, it's separate. It's a different situation. But I like to see. Can you call for a vote on accepting the plan as it's with Dan's corrections?
For Edmund Hill only?
Yes, at this time. Then we'll go on to the next one.
Sure. I think we need a motion to accept the plan as presented with the inclusion of Mr. Clark's comments.
So moved.
Seconded by Kelly. Beat you this time for that one, Tom. So, okay, roll call vote. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mount Pisgah. What I found out is there's a conservation restriction with the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife. There was also, when the town submitted the initial project, they included Division of Fisheries and Wildlife land in the project. And with Fred's help, we contacted Division of Fisheries and Wildlife because I became very concerned. I didn't want to start collecting data on their land, and they said no, that we don't have the authority to collect data nor write a plan for the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. So we had it, and I informed DCR of this, so they're aware that there's over 100 acres that are going to not be included because of the initial proposal, and they were fine with it. Simultaneously, there's a requirement in the CR that the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife review this plan. So right now, they're reviewing the same plan that the Conservation Commission has reviewed, and Liz is doing an excellent job. And she immediately said that there's 3 goals that she wants to see changed, and I don't have an issue with them. One, that because of the conservation restriction, and that the town must have received some money for the conservation restriction, that the improved hunting and fishing, I had it at moderate or low, and it has to be high. So that's a change. Then the other requirement under produced income, I had moderate. They're requiring it to be low, which is not, I don't think that's an issue. So I said I would present this to the commission. It was interesting, the last comment she had is, in the little narrative that I had about explaining in your own words the goals of the property, she wanted me to remove the word safe. I said a safe environment. She's concerned that some people will argue that there shouldn't be hunting out there, and that's they gave part of the conservation restriction is to promote hunting and fishing, and she's concerned. So I'd like to propose that we make those 3 changes to the goals section of the plan. Does anyone have an issue with that?
No.
Shaking heads, no. Dan Clark, you're good?
That's fine with me.
Well, wasn't the hunting and fishing out there an issue? We have guidelines that says you can't hunt within 500 feet of the trail. And the trails are pretty well established throughout the area, almost eliminating the ability to hunt within that area. Isn't that going to be in conflict with us promoting hunting up there?
It sounds like we have to remove that requirement.
Isn't there are large portions that you can hunt? I mean, you can get 500 feet away from a house without too much trouble up there.
No, it's not a house, it's a trail. The requirement for the policy you currently have at Mount Pisgah is no hunting within 500 feet of a trail. And the Trails Committee has built trails up there pretty completely, almost eliminating the ability to hunt up there, except for, I think there's maybe one small area. And then, of course, in Berlin. So.
What rule is that?
It's the Conservation Commission's hunting policy for Mount Pisgah. Prohibits hunting within 500 feet of a trail. And when you put the trails on the map and you do a 500-foot buffer, pretty much there's not much hunting left. So I'm guessing if Jim's condition is approved, then you need to amend that hunting policy.
Can't we
I'm
say
not sure. I'm
hunting
not
is
sure.
encouraged subject to our other regulations?
Right.
I guess that's a question for Jim. If we don't amend the hunting policy, that eliminates it prohibits it within 500 feet of the trail, can we still meet the requirement that the DCR has for that portion of the land?
This is for Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, and she's commenting on the Forest Stewardship Plan, not your policy. So I removing the word safe is not going to hurt anything, and if she's going to be happy and have us move forward, which I think she will be very happy, then that's okay. I'll be on. There's lots of people hiking up there. And
There are. That's part of the problem.
that's part of the problem. So I would hope a hunter wouldn't be up there with so many hikers.
We get inundated with calls for permission to hunt up there every fall. As soon as the hunting season opens with the various types of equipment that can be used, whether it's bow, shotgun, or black powder, we get calls starting in late September about what can we hunt up there and where can we hunt. And we've just given out copies of the policy. I thought one of the other conditions was not only the wording about the safe, but promoting hunting and fishing up there within the conservation's restriction on that property that they hold. And if we don't do that, will we be in conflict? And
Well, okay, well, the goal is not promoting, it's improving the hunting and fishing opportunity, and we can do that. It doesn't necessarily say we're promoting it by, by having high water quality, by creating edge, early successional habitat, that all improves the habitat, and I think that's what she was getting at.
Still subject to local bylaws, such as the 500-foot rule.
it's not so much a local bylaw, it's a policy that you have had for a number of years. I'm only being a stickler about this because I'm the one who has to answer those calls every fall for a dozen or more people who want to hunt up there that go try to do it the right way by asking permission. Because the policy says the commission can grant permission as long as they hunt not within 500 feet of the trail. If we can adopt the recommendations that they're asking us to and not have to amend the policy, it's fine. If in fact you need to amend the policy to adhere to the recommendation that they're asking you to adopt, I'm just putting it out there that the commission needs to be aware that it's a change and it will have impact on the hikers as well as the hunters. We had stories every once in a while about a hunter dragging a deer along the trail back out to the parking lot, walking out with his gun properly pointed down and not hunting, but still walking with his orange camo and carrying his gun. And little Jimmy is out with his mom on a nice Saturday morning hike, and their two uses are not compatible during hunting season as much as you would think. I'm just putting it out there. I just want to know if we have to amend the policy because we approve this, then that's what you'll need to do. Otherwise, if we can do it without amending the policy, I'm fine. Or if you want to amend the policy, now's the time to talk about it, I guess, before you vote to approve the plan that Jim has for you, if that's a requirement. And if there's a way for us to approve contingent upon confirming that with Fish and Wildlife, that also would be an option.
I'm thinking this is never, I don't view this quite as, I think both of these things can exist at the same time together. I think that's the point. I don't view this as a problem.
Yeah, I agree with Todd. I think the stewardship plan is just placing a value on different aspects of the area, right? And Fish and Wildlife wants hunting to be a high value. Isn't that what we're talking about?
That's correct.
Yeah, so
it's the improvement of it, improving the habitat.
Right. So that's to me
I'm all for the plan, improving the habitat and improving the quality of the forest as well as the wetlands, as well as the runoff. I just thought that I had heard one of the recommendations was that you had to promote hunting up there, and that would be in conflict with your current hunting policy. If that's not the case, sorry I brought it up.
Yeah, I have a comment. I didn't include anything about hunting in the plan. I
Okay,
just avoided that issue because it really has nothing to do with the stewardship of the forest. It's a use, and I didn't include it.
so could you just, for me, Jim, just reiterate what the 3 comments were that she gave you?
Yeah, I had improved hunting and fishing as I forget if I think I have it over here someplace. 1 second, I have the exact wording someplace.
That's the key word, Fred, right? It's improve versus promote.
Improve, that's right. But they felt it should be high. I had it as moderate. Then I had produce income as moderate, and they felt it should be low to meet the conservation restriction. And they wanted to remove the word safe in the little narrative about the objectives. I said that the environment should be safe to the public. And so they asked me to remove that word safe. So I didn't think that was an issue.
Okay, so I guess maybe I heard it wrong as approve hunting and fishing, not improve hunting and fishing. So if that's all it is, and we're not walking down a slippery slope of allowing hunting in an area where we don't, again, sorry I brought it up.
Okay. So stand 1 is on the west, primarily on the west side of the Mount Pisgah, and it's a beautiful white pine hardwood forest, large diameter forest. What's wonderful about the whole site, there's very, very few invasive species at all. I saw a few wet areas had a couple individual stems, but there was nothing to speak about, except right along the road by the trailheads, there's a couple small populations. And what I don't know what's in, I don't have a copy of the conservation restriction, so I don't know if there's a requirement if you can or cannot treat the invasive species. There was very light wind damage and very just a little spongy moth damage to that forest. The forest is overstocked. It's very dense. It was 21,000 board feet the acre, and it was there's a lot of large trees, but it's a medium diameter forest. It's not as large diameter as Mount Edmonds. So I felt that treating invasive species, even though they're minor, would be a good thing to knock them back now, not have them spread. I thought about treating about half the acreage, 20 acres out of the 40, in 2 ways. To have 10 half acre group selection, these gaps in the forest, for a total of 5 acres. There would be a half acre group selection. I would leave a few individual nice trees, especially if they're oak or black cherry, hard mass, soft mass, to create some early successional habitat, some hedge effect. Then the rest of the 15 acres, I would do a selective harvest, thinning from below and by spacing. So you'd have a beautiful forest that's stocked. It's going to be the largest, most valuable trees left behind. There's enough volume to carry this. Stand 2 is a beautiful oak hardwood forest with occasional pine trees. And I'm more of a lumper, but I lumped together 229, almost 230 acres. I took one plot after another, and it was basically the same data. I think I took 15, 20 plots in that area where it's primarily oak. There were I saw very few or no invasive species, which is really good. There was an occasional wind damaged tree a spongy moth damaged tree. There was evidence of past fires, even more so in this oak forest in Edmund Hill. I could see that there was at least 1 or 2 fires occurred over time, and there were some trees that had scar. You see where the fire ran up the hill and went on the backside and scorched the backside of the trees. Now, Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, they claimed there was some erosion on some of the trails. And I told them I didn't see any erosion. And so I included that in the document. And I said there needs to be some further coordination where the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, they're out there monitoring and they have some documentation which they haven't shared with me yet of where this erosion is. So that's something that should be addressed. And that's probably outside the scope of the stewardship plan, but something for the Conservation Commission to think about and address later on. What I recommend is to treat about 40 acres at this time of the 230 acres. Again, just to work with the public, have them try something to see the benefits, to see that it can be done and to be really successful, because you want a high quality project. You want this to be a really an example of how things can be done. Again, I'm looking at 10 half-acre group selection for a total of 5 acres. And I would still leave a few trees within that gap, some really nice oak trees to keep structural diversity and some snags within the group selection. And then 35 acres, a single tree selection, again, a thinning from below and by spacing. You still have a fully stocked forest, but you're removing all the excess trees. Again, protecting the trails are paramount, and I would not use any trail as a skid trail. I develop a separate access system, and I'd cross trails very strategically, and to make sure the public were aware of that there's larvae harvesting going on. Stand 3 is a series of wetlands. There's about 13 acres, light invasive species, some wind damage. I would treat the invasive species. It is not a big deal because there's so few of them. And again, similar to Edmund Hill, I'm calling for natural processes to manage those wetlands. Now, there's a couple isolated pieces. One is stands 4 and 5, and this is the piece that's south of the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife land, and it's not connected to Mount Pisgah, but it's included in the project. Stand 4 is the open field with wetlands. There's some open waters. There's occasional individual trees and some group of trees. It's 25.81 acres. It looked like it was mowed annually. That's there's dense invasive species all around it and in the interior. So I would call to treat those invasive species. And I would mow annually, but I would recommend mowing after August 15th when bird fledgling occurs. It's great habitat for breeding birds, and it'd be a great asset to delay mowing. Do you have someone that mows that? Is that in a contract?
Yes.
On Pisco, down aren't you talking down the field, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, in Shunder's Field, yes.
Shunder's Field, yeah.
If he can,
I didn't necessarily associate that with the Mount Pisgah, but it is in the application that way.
Yes.
okay, then there's a white pine forest. It's an amazing forest. It's a white pine hardwood forest at stand 5. It's 29.8 acres. There's almost 32,000 board feet to the acre. It's very, very large diameter. Very dense invasive species. There's an occasional wind damaged tree. It's grossly overstocked. And again, it's very, very large diameter trees. It's surrounded by residents. It's really important to treat the invasive species, especially it's really dense around where all the residents live. I would try to take about 20 acres out of the 30 acres and put in, again, I'm calling for 10 gaps, half-acre gaps, group selection, and 15 acres of single tree selection. And again, it's a thinning by below and spacing. And just work with the land, especially the residents, just to improve the forest, because it will start to fall apart because that forest is so dense, and you can see that the crowns of the trees are starting to close in. And so I suspect the next 10, 15 years, you're going to start seeing a lot more mortality in that forest due to the overcrowding. Then stand 6 is this 4-acre piece. It's to the west, the west along the Berlin Northborough town line, just south of the line. It's an isolated piece, so it's 4 acres, and it's a hardwood stand. And I'm just saying, manage it by natural processes. There's no invasive species, and I don't think you have access to that stand anyways. So that's a summary of what I found in my recommendations. So any questions, concerns, comments?
I think we moved past the earlier questions. So
yeah.
Good. So we want to vote this one also, correct, Jim?
That's correct.
And I just want to make sure there's no more questions or comments, yeah? Everybody's good?
Sounds
Don't see any
good.
hands up from the public. We're good there. All right, so we are voting to accept the recommendations for Mount Pisgah as presented by Jim.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Dan. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Very good, Jim. Next steps, you need me to sign something soon, is what Fred mentioned?
Yeah, this is great. What I like to do is, I like to put everything together and consolidate it so it's not in pieces. And can I meet you someplace, Greg? To get the signature
Sure, when?
next week sometime?
Next week, we can do it as long as it's Monday, Tuesday.
Let's look
And
at,
maybe I could maybe do Monday, Tuesday, maybe early Wednesday.
Monday is great. Can it be like 4:30 in the afternoon?
I've got somebody coming here. I think a little bit later. How long is it going to take? Just to sign a couple things, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah, it's just there's about 5 places to sign in each document.
Okay. And where do you live?
No, I'll come there. That's no. I live in West Brookfield.
Okay. I mean, I can meet you at the town hall or something like that.
I was
Okay.
going to suggest the town hall. That way we could, well, Monday's actually a holiday. Town hall's closed, so,
Townhouse closed.
yeah. Sorry.
Okay, Tuesday.
If you could do it on Tuesday, that way Vincent could scan it right as soon as it gets signed, and that we have a copy here and we can forward it on to Jim and he can submit it however he needs to do it electronically, unless it needs to be done in person by paper.
It has to be done. It's in paper with multiple copies. I have to make 3 copies of each management plan. I made their sticklers. But it's a
We
good
can help.
idea.
We can help you with that, Jim, if you
Oh,
guys
that's great.
come here.
That'll reduce my cost. So do you want to meet at like 3:30 at the town hall?
Gonna be a little bit earlier on Tuesdays. I have a site visit at Riverside Golf Course on Tuesdays.
Town hall's open till 7 on Tuesday, so no rush there on our end.
Give me a
I
time.
won't be
Greg.
there, but Vinny will.
Greg, give me a time.
Can we do it like at 3?
3 o'clock is fine.
$3 Tuesday, I can be sure to be there.
3 p.m. Tuesday it is.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Thank
Okay, bye.
you.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, Jim.
Night.
Thank you. Okay. Gotta get back on synced up here. 71 Coolidge Circle. I believe we have a hand up, which is Mark Farrell. Mark is a panelist now. And Vinny, you visited, right? 71 Coolidge? You're on mute.
I visited there and I talked with Mark about some of the issues that I found, and there are some decisions that need to be coming from the commission in regard to the extent of the work and what's being proposed, and he's going to address the issues.
Okay. Mark, you with us? Mark, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you perfectly now.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm Mark Farrell, Green Hill Engineering. I'm the applicant's representative. I just realized that my laptop here doesn't have video, so I apologize for that. I can't share that. So basically, this is my clients purchased the property. It's an older property and on Coolidge Circle, and it needs some work. I don't know if it's possible if I could share my screen and then I could go through quickly go over the site and what proposed work is going to happen and then answer any questions.
Great.
Did that come up?
Yes, I see it now.
Okay. So basically, this is the I'm just going to get in here so I can. I'll just get a page. This is on Coolidge Circle. North is straight up on the page. If you continue down Coolidge Circle, the cul-de-sac is beyond here. I believe this parcel of land might be owned by the town of Northborough, possibly under the Conservation Commission's control. Like I said, it's an existing house off to the side. It was probably built in the late 60s. Early 70s, and not much has been done to it since. So it's kind of overgrown. It's hidden from the street. The vegetation is no real lawn. Everything's kind of grown up around the house. To the north is Coolidge Brook, which flows through that parcel. I believe is owned by the town of Northborough. And then there's a double wide culvert that goes under Coolidge Circle and it flows out to the other side. Associated with that is a bordering vegetated wetland. This area here is broad and flat. And this is, in my opinion, where the prime riparian zone is. The site itself slopes down to the wetland. And this area where the house is probably 10 to 12 feet higher in elevation than the wetland area. Primarily what they want to do is to rehab and fix up the house. And part of that is the septic system. As there currently has a septic system there that's not in compliance with Title V, and they would like to replace that. We're proposing to put a 1,500 gallon septic tank followed by a drain field or a leach field. I located the leach field so that it's meets the Title V setback from wetland, which is this blue line. That's 50 feet from the edge of the wetland. And I located the corner here 56 feet from the edge of the wetland. To get it out further away from the wetland, this is uphill. And Title V have requirements that you cannot be too deep in the ground with your leach field. And if we pushed it this way, this end would be starting to get more than 3 feet of cover and would not be compliant with Title V. To get it even further away would require having to put a pump chamber in and pump it up over this hill. This is the edge of Coolidge Brook. This line here is the inner riparian zone, IR. And then the outer riparian is over here. So the whole lot is within the riparian zone. But being an existing house that was in existence prior to the passage of the Rivers Protection Act, the septic system is grandfathered or exempted if you're not expanding the flow, which they're not. They're going to keep it. It's 4 bedrooms now, and they're going to keep it 4 bedrooms. Additional work they would like to do, before they purchased it, they went to conservation. They said they suggested coming in and showing all of the work that you want to do on the property there. And some of that work consists of putting a walkway down to this lower, to the driveway, a walkway in the front.
Hey, Mark, can you blow us up just a little bit for me?
Sure.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So that would consist of a driveway here. There's really, there might be the remnant, excuse me, a walkway. There might be the remnants of one there now. It might be overgrown, but nonetheless, they would just like to have a walkway down to the driveway on the front and the back. There was an existing deck or porch off the back. It has fallen in disrepair and was removed. So they're proposing to put a replacement deck on the back of the house. In addition, as I mentioned before, the whole trees have grown up all around the house, and they're proposing to take down some number of them, about 10 of them that are either dead or too close to the house, to try to get some more air in there so they don't have problems with the rot they've had prior. It's definitely not a lawn, they're not looking to make the whole site lawn and have manicured lawn. They just want to remove some of the trees around the house to kind of open it up. And then they also would like to remove a few trees here because I'd like to try to get some solar panels on top of the roof and just to get a little more sunshine in there. That's pretty much, in addition, off the end of the driveway here, there's this little turnaround here, and they would like to propose to put a shed here at the end of the turnaround. It's an older home. The garage is only 22 feet wide. And when you put 2 cars in there, it doesn't leave much room. And they just would like to have a storage shed they could keep things, the snow blowers and various tools and garden tools and things like that. So that's basically what the site is and their proposed work. I'd be glad to answer any questions or comments the board might have.
Well, I'll start. My first comment here is, looks like the shed is partially inside the 35.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't put the 35 in the 25 in there, but it's definitely it's probably about 10 feet from the edge of the wetland.
So it's inside the 25.
Inside the 25.
Yeah, we have a 25 no disturb. So that, in my view, that shouldn't happen.
I think I talked to Vinny this afternoon, and kind of went over some of his comments, things like that. But I think they could possibly not put the shed here and then maybe put a shed up in this area here that wouldn't require any additional tree removal and would be outside the the 25 and the 35-foot town of Northborough zones.
Other questions, comments, concerns from the commission?
Does that leach field meet our wetland bylaw setback?
Your bylaw, the town of Northborough's bylaw is what, 100 feet for leach field?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
only
it meets Title V, but it's a repair of a septic system. It's a repair, so it's, I'm not sure if that the bylaw just is for new construction, because many of these properties in Northborough have, leach fields that are within the buffer zone, but not, outside the 50-foot. Title V is 50-foot.
The commission has allowed repairs to be within the 100 feet as long as they're more than 50 feet from the edge of the wetland, but only in a repair situation.
I guess the reason I ask is that there's a whole third of the lot. The whole lower third of the lot is, why couldn't you put it down there?
Well, you could put down there, but you'd have to put a pump in, and the carbon footprint, in my opinion, would be greater and you have a mechanical system. So this is just a gravity passive system, fully compliant with Title V. If to get it up in here, they would have to put a second concrete chamber there and then pump up and over here, because this is higher, significantly higher than the other area, the rest of the lot. The existing system is also in this area, and that would be pumped and filled as well.
I think last month, didn't we approve a leaching field within around 50 feet, but we asked them, they put a poly barrier up?
We did. That was the septic system on Settlers Road, which was within 100 feet to the isolated vegetated wetland, and the applicant proposed a poly barrier to help the commission grant the waiver on that, because that was new construction.
So this one does have a poly barrier. It's set 5 feet off from the edge of the stone, and what the poly barrier does, it does provide additional protection to the wetland area, but also, probably more importantly, reduces the amount of grading down below the system, because normally the Title V system, they want to keep it 15 feet level before you slope down 3 to 1, and that would just bring more grading, finished grading down closer to the wetland. So I put a poly barrier in there. It's one on the plan. There's the detail, and like I said, it's this light dotted line right here that would be on the downhill side, 5 feet from the edge of the stone.
So, I guess my opinion is the same as the last site. If there's a reasonable alternative, in this case, it seems to be there is a reasonable alternative. I don't know why we would waive a wetland bylaw that's set up in place to prevent this type of construction this close to the wetland. So my opinion hasn't changed, I guess.
Right. And this is Vinny. That septic, the proposed soil absorption system would then move just to outside the 100-foot line. It wouldn't have to go up to the top of the hill in the southeast corner. It would just have to go up to the kind of south of the building. So it is a possibility, and that would be up to the commission, I think. But the poly barrier does do a good job with what's being proposed, as was proposed at 15 Settlers at last month.
I mean, the only reason I would be okay with that is because it's a repair of an existing environment. That's it.
Yep.
I'm gonna stay the same. Since this is a replacement repair and not new construction, I am okay with it as long as it meets the Title V.
I will just point out that we approved it. The last one was new construction, but we waived that one too. So, yeah, where is the line where we don't waive something?
I think I'm with Greg and Tom on this. How far away is it from the wetland edge again?
The edge of the stone, Title V requirement is 50 feet from the edge of the wetland, and I slid this one, it's 56 feet from the edge of the wetland. And I slid it, twisted as much as I could without digging into the hill in order to, put it in to get there. Any further, I'd have to start digging the hill out, which would result in more disturbance on the site.
But we're further than 50 feet away, right?
Yes, we are. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm fine with it.
And the justification is that it is a repair. So that might be one of the standards the commission can use in the future. Repairs, I mean, they've got extensive work going on. It's not, I mean, it's one of those things that repairs are allowed a little bit of leeway, and this seems to apply to that. But it is generally it's the commission's bylaw, so you make the decision.
I am not okay with the shed.
I guess I would point out that the shed is actually in the floodplain. So it really can't go there. And I would question whether or not the walkway that kind of points towards the shed needs to be there either, if the shed's not going to be there.
So Mark, it sounds like we might need to move this out another month because this is all under a single NOI, and if we deny, we deny.
So if we continue it, if I talk about revising the plans and possibly eliminating the walk in the back in the shed, or relocating the shed and then coming back in the July meeting?
I'd also like to see the 25 and 35 marked out on the plan.
Yes, I can do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Any more questions from the commission before I take a public comment here? We can come back, of course, but let me raise them. We've got, this may be the property owner, Susan Mogren. Susan, you are allowed to speak.
Sure. Hi, this is Susan Mogren. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Thank you for your time tonight. The walkway is the access to the deck and the rear door. So it's not a walkway to the shed. If you drive in the driveway, the only way you can get in the house is to go through the garage. So you need a walkway to the front door and the back door, or you don't need to have those doors because you can't get to them.
So any sort of redesign, we need to have that walkway outside 35 feet from the wetland.
So it's not really a redesign. There was a back door and a front door, and the house and the lot has been under demise for 50 years, and the walkways are either buried. You could see remnants of bricks on the back, but the front, we're not even sure that we could locate any other than just a path through the woods. If you're familiar with this house, it's been it's overgrown for the past 50 years. You can't see it from the street. It's in a very nice neighborhood with, all lawn, and we've been the homeowners for 2 months and we bought the worst house in the best neighborhood. And we'd like to, bring it along as far as possible without clear cutting the entire lot to, make it look like the rest of the neighborhood.
Sure. Okay. Any more questions from the commission? So we need some changes to the plan.
Could those be incorporated just to, I'm not sure about moving it along, or if the majority of the board is okay with the location where it is, the changes to the plan could be incorporated or could be conducted, and then we could issue the order, or we could continue it. It's your decision. I know when I was out there, they were trying to get this septic system repaired so that they could actually use the system. So I think there is a little bit of a push for it, but they're doing a lot of work on this house.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think I would be okay with that approach so long as we clearly say that the shed is out as it is currently shown. That no new work for any sort of walkway takes place inside the 35. Go ahead, Susan. I think you're still good to speak, Susan.
I'm sorry, we were muted. This is Susan's husband, Scott, the other homeowner. We certainly would agree the shed is too close and have no argument with relocating that. And the walk, there may be something, literally you drive in the driveway, there is no way to access the house. You have to walk either around one side or the other to get to either the front door or the back door. But the walkway could angle towards the driveway sooner than that. Are you saying the 25-foot buffer?
35.
It doesn't need to go all the way down. We could angle it to the right part way down.
That's part of my challenge too, is I don't know where the 25-35 is. I'm kind of guessing.
Well, I can try to, this is roughly the 25-foot here. Here's 50 feet. There's the wetland. So halfway between those two lines would roughly be the 25. So this just little portion of the end here is probably 22 to 24 feet from the edge of the wetland. There's a stone wall right here, so it holds back the soil. This is higher in grade. It's a drive under garage. So they really can't, they could probably cut the walkway here. And then that would probably put it roughly at the 25, but it wouldn't, 35 feet would be here somewhere. And then the front walkway terminates probably 45 feet from the wetlands. So this is probably not an issue. And we could just, is it the 25-foot that you don't want the walkway in, or the 35-foot?
35, with 25 no touch, 35 no build, no structure.
We could put it right here.
Well, I mean, you can see we park our car within that buffer zone, and you have to get out of your car and walk up to your front door. What path we take, we could cut through that wall. But the car is parked within that buffer zone. So, I mean, we'll work with you and keep the walkway out as much as possible and practical.
Yeah,
we can put stairs, we can cut that wall and put in steps and keep it as far out as possible.
I actually have a photo of that area if you want me to share my
screen. That would
screen.
be great.
Oh, another participant is sharing. Mark, you have to stop sharing.
Okay. let me stop share.
All right, is it up there?
Yep, I can see a picture. I can see a car in a garage.
So
Yep,
that car is probably within the 35-foot zone, right?
I don't know.
And the walkway we're talking is if you walk directly towards that gas grill, we want to go up and access our back door. That's where the walkway would be.
right, and you could actually just have, instead of it coming down, do you see my pointer? Is that on there?
Yeah.
Yep.
So the current proposal is for the walkway to kind of come along here and come down to a point over there and come out. They could put a little bend in here and maybe do something with this wall, so that you just keep it out of the 35 feet. That
Sure.
seems like an easy solution.
That seems appropriate.
Can we back to
Right.
the plan, please?
Get that, Mark, the plan?
I mean, I'll try to blow it up a little bit. Wrong way.
There you go.
So this is where that gas grill was down in here in the driveway, and
Yeah.
this is approximately where the wall runs from here back. 35 feet. It's probably in here somewhere, so maybe just that last little bit of the wall, if they cut the banking down here, they could just hook the driveway. They could just hook this walk around this way and meet that 35 feet.
Yeah.
So that's something you could include in the plan, the revised plan, Mark. You can get rid of the shed, reline the walkway. And I think those were the only two items that were holding it up, right?
Yeah. And
And
I
the
think-
septic, assuming the septic is a repair and okay.
Was there a question about the amount of area disturbed in the second riparian zone, the 10% or the 5,000?
Yeah, in the forms in the notice of intent, it noted there were 6,000 square feet altered, but that was a rough estimate. Mark said he was going to come back with a new number. I haven't seen it yet, but that was another issue that should be addressed. Mark, did you look at what you really anticipate the numbers to be?
Sure. So should we ask for a continuance, and I can, we'll talk with the homeowners. I'll talk with the homeowners and we'll come up with a revised plan, and I can also update the plan with the 25 to 35 foot, and also address the shed.
That'd be my recommendation, Mark. Are there any issues with the trees being cut in terms of being close to a resource area or not?
The only issues, you're going to be stumping and removing the stumps in the area. I'm not sure, there were a couple in the area where the shed is proposed. And those, we may want to just have those cut and leave the stumps in place. It wasn't clear when I was out there, and the plan didn't specify what was happening with those, but that seems like that would be the preference of the commission, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Oh, if we're cutting trees in the resource area, then we need to identify them.
Okay, so maybe on the Mark, on the revised plan, put in the locations of where the trees are going to be removed and which ones The ones near the septic system, you're definitely going to want to stump, but the ones that are down
Yes,
within the
yep.
50-foot.
Yep, yep, I can do that.
Okay. So is that the plan, Mark? I'm going to go ahead and address.
Yeah, I
the
think
points.
so. We'll ask for continuance. We'll ask the board for continuance, and we'll go back and with your feedback and comments and speaking with the homeowners, I will revise the plan and we'll come back at your next scheduled meeting.
Okay, which is 7:20.
7:20.
Yep. And you have all the comments and points brought up. If not, you can check in with Vinny, but
Yeah, yep. No, I have them. I wrote them down.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, we need a motion.
Make a motion that we continue 71 Coolidge Circle to the next meeting, July 20th.
Second,
Second,
Seconded by Todd. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
and I vote yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Very
What's
good.
left
Thank
of
you.
it, right?
Thank you. Susan, do you have a question before we go? Susan Mogren?
No, we appreciate
Okay,
your time.
I saw a
Thank
hand
you.
raised, so I don't want to see.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No worries, no worries.
All right, good night.
Thank you, good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Greg, was that bump out in their driveway there, or is that something that they proposed?
Existing.
That exists.
I
That's
thought
up
it
there.
it looked like
It does
was-
exist?
Yep, that's in the
Alright.
photo. Another photo, but I don't think you want to look through the photos.
Okay, let's talk about Lincoln Street School. Do we have anybody here?
I might be the last one standing.
Okay, well, Vinny has the drawing. You want to put that up? While Vinny's putting up, I'll do a quick setup, okay, Kelly, and then you can take it from there. So, a couple of weeks ago, Kelly and I went out to Lincoln Street School at the request of somebody there that she knows, a teacher, who wants to put in some sort of a story wall. We took a walk around with a number of the folks. We talked to them about it. It seems like a great idea, and they got the space for it. And I don't see much impact, but let's let Kelly tell us more details on that one.
Yeah, that's pretty much. So Justin Lowwater, he is one of the teachers over at Lincoln Street. He's a great guy. He started the community garden around the tree in front, and he's really a strong supporter of getting kids outside and teaching them in nature, teach them it. I think the fact that the courtyard in the middle of the school is AstroTurf really just rubs him. Like, we should have our kids on real grass. And that back baseball field is never used. I can tell you, my kids, when they're at recess, they're always in the front of the school, even though if you're looking at this image, the back of the school is just as big as the front of the school, but the back of the school never ever gets used. And when I was on the PTO, we tried to figure out a million different ways to use the back, but no one ever came up with an idea. One of the librarian over at Z School, I believe it is, she's leaving, but she started a story walk concept over there. And I know Mary Finn and Southborough also has a story walk. So they basically, do you know what story walks are or no? No. You get a book and you basically cut the pages out of it and you laminate it, and then you put the pages on stakes and along the walkway. So kids actually really like this because they're usually not a lot of words. It's more of a picture book, but you can go from one page to the next and you walk the story. I've seen other places do it where you have the flashlight pages and you can shine a flashlight and it's like, here's the tree. What do you think's living in the tree? And you use a mirror and you reflect the sun and you can see like a spider in the tree. It's just something fun to get the kids outside. And then in the back of the baseball fields, where, what is that? I'm not a baseball person, past first base,
Right
that
field.
corner, right field. It goes downhill and then it kind of levels off. There's chain link separating the leveling off area from where the wetland is. It right around where the chain link is, it starts to get soggy. And you can actually see water beyond the chain link fence. And in that little area where it says learning space, mostly invasive, couple of multiflora, couple of autumn olive, one half dead tree that was taken over by bittersweet decades ago. That's about it. So they did find a local landscaper that would donate time and material, Pete Fallon over at the former Zecco Brothers. And I guess they're trying to bring it before NEF for a grant to pay for whatever they have to pay for. But they didn't really know where to begin. They knew it was a regulated area. So that's it.
Just informational that we'll probably see something in the fall, I would think. Kelly, how far did we think that learning space was from the wetland, in back?
From the blue line or from the hatched green?
Oh, from any resource area.
Well, the resource area is Cold Harbor Brook and the
Yeah.
200-foot riverfront area.
Yep.
And that extends about to the middle of the baseball field at 200 feet,
Yeah.
somewhere in that area.
Yep. So we were talking to him about the no touch, the no disturb, nothing permanent. I walk my dog over at Melican and they have an outdoor learning space and they've basically just used a tree chunks. So somebody took a giant tree and chopped it up into little stumps and the kids sit on that. And then they have a massive stump that has like a board coming out of it. So everything is mobile. So he wasn't planning on putting anything permanent in there and just basically leaving it in open space to get kids down into. So they were hoping to do the story walk and then maybe the learning space was somewhere they could get to after the story walk, talk about the book. Or on the other side of the parking lot where I had no idea there was a ramp. There's like a boat ramp going right into the brook.
Yeah.
They were thinking of like, could we get somebody in here to do like water sampling with the kids, do stuff like that, turbidity, just check out the water column, go over to the learning space, talk about it, do bird observations, because there is that great wetland back there. So I don't think they're actually planning on doing anything like permanent back there. The most permanent thing is putting tree stumps for the kids to sit on.
So again, just FYI that this is being discussed. They're looking for a grant. We would probably see something school ends in hours. So yeah, we see something in the fall, I'm guessing, Kelly. And we were talking RDA, right? We talked in RDA maybe with them, so.
I think Justin was trying to get as much legwork done as possible. The superintendent is, doubling as a principal of the school right now. So he's kind of strapped for time. So I think Justin was hoping if he could get as much legwork done and present the project, with all the details intact, then it would be easier to approve or to get to the end.
as opposed to, hey, I have an idea, but I don't have any solutions for any or plans.
Well, now that I'm here, I'd be happy to work with him. He can give me a call, and if he has sketches or ideas, then I can go over that so he doesn't spin his wheels too much.
He does. He has a great little sketch that he put together. I forwarded him over, from Northborough Map Geo, just the aerials and a screenshot of it. He did we talked about, because Lincoln Street School is so new, it was just done, 15 or 16. I know it came before planning board 2014 or 15. So we were discussing about the wetland flags may still be out there. It's still pretty new, and there has to be a plan somewhere about where they flagged. I dug around online. I couldn't find it online. I haven't actually had a second to jump into town hall and look for paper. But I figured there had to be a plan out there somewhere.
We should have a plan here somewhere for you, Kelly, that we could dig up.
Yeah, could link the two of you together.
Oh, that's that. No voting, just FYI, it's coming along. Ready to move on here? You good, Kelly? We're good to move? Let's talk about Route 9 water main extension. Almost as exciting as the previous one, but not quite. And Vin, you sent a note out too about waiver, right, or exemption?
Yeah, they're looking for an exemption. Is there someone from Mass DOT? Is she still here?
Annie has her hand up.
Okay, and let her know I have a plan if she doesn't.
And maybe
bring her as a panelist. She's in.
Bring her in, and then we're good.
Any moment now.
Good
Hello,
evening.
Andy. Good evening.
So essentially, what we're trying to do is design a set of plans that will connect a couple properties on State Route 9 to your water line from Lawrence Street. And we're going to stub off the far end of it. Roughly, it's 600 to 700 feet in length. We have a salt shed on Lawrence Street, a little ways away, and I believe this came, at least to my group, I'm the senior project manager in the project management group, came to us from our environmental side. Normally it would come through maintenance, but regardless, we're just trying to get this executed. So we have 75% design plans out right now that are in review, and then we're going to take all of the comments and then incorporate them hopefully into the 100%. We will turn the project over then to the town of Northborough, and we will pay for the project. So this way you can work with your own contractors and all, but we will have the design guidelines that we need for work along Route 9.
Oh, so Northborough DPW actually does the work.
Or their contractor.
Or
And
their
there are no
contractor.
utility relocations associated with this work at all.
But it's all under the auspices of the DPW.
Yeah.
Not the state. That was my, yeah, okay. And isn't there some sort of, exemption you were looking for, right? Where you cited an exemption.
I think there's a means that we have for an exemption, but it was through conversations with our designer, Weston and Sampson, and Scott Charpentier. It got into the eyesight of Concom, and so we've prepared a brief narrative, shared the plans, And, if you have any comments that you want us to incorporate into the design plans, we certainly would do that.
Yeah, just so you know, Greg, I've got the plans and we did talk about that exemption from the wetlands regulations. It's for maintenance and improvement of existing public utilities. I can't think of the actual reference, but it's also in the Northborough bylaw for the same thing. That one is 644, I think is what it was in your local bylaws. But I also, if I can share my screen, I can pull up the, this is the plan showing the work. Is it visible to people?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Route 9, Belmont Street here. This is Lawrence coming in. North is up the page. This is the gas station, retail there, and 2 other retails in this end here. What they're proposing is the shaded areas to do the main right down within the road right of way, and then just service connections out to the buildings and connecting in, going out to the second building here, and going out to the third building, going in there, and then going out to the 4th building. So that's what they're proposing to do. They've proposed in here, it's tough to read. I could zoom in a little.
There you go. Yep.
And hopefully, yeah. So this is the edge of Little Bummett Brook here. And so there's this is a 100-foot setback from the brook. So they're bringing a water line in here, bringing it out and going back here. This work here, they were saying they're going to close everything up every day. They also are going to propose to have a, I think it's it's not a wattle, a compost tube around each of the work areas. It'll be in place before they start and then stay in place until the area is stabilized. And the same thing for this area here. So that's pretty much the description of it. And it is, I believe, and I think Fred believed, just jump in if I'm overstepping, but I think it meets the exemption as a public utility because it's an existing water service out in Route 9 that's being extended and servicing these lots.
And on the far end, there's going to be a curb stop. So should somewhere down the line, another extension be desired, you would have a connection point.
Right in here.
Yep.
Where do these places get their water today? They have wells out there, or what?
Yes, they have private wells and they will be decommissioned.
I'm not sure it was made clear, Greg, but the whole purpose of the water line extension by the state paying for it is because the state yard at Lawrence Street has a large amount of salt and there has been contamination to the wells on those properties. And so they're replacing those wells with town water at their expense through the town. And the exemption seems appropriate based upon the nature of the work and the limits of where it's going to be done, primarily within paved areas.
It seems reasonable to me.
I think all they're looking for is some kind of a vote tonight from the board that they're in agreement that it meets the exemption, and then they can move forward with their plans to go forward. And Vinnie will check the erosion control and monitor the construction while it's happening once they start.
Does the commission have any questions or comments or concerns about this?
The only comment I might have would be if there's any catch basins that we have silt sacks.
That's one of the conditions that's already in there. I did not mention it, but yes, good, you picked that out.
Okay. Elsewise, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns, nodding heads?
Seems fine.
Okay. All right, then let's take a vote to approve the exemption for the Route 9 water main extension.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Kelly. Roll call, Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Yay.
All right. All right. Your night is all yours now.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you, Annie.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. All right. What do we have left here? We have two items here. We have the Edmund Hill squatter and authorizing payment of the invoice for tree removal. Let's do the invoice first. That might be a little drier than the squatters discussion.
They'll both be brief if I have my way.
I'm all for that, Fred.
So the authorized payment for invoice of the trees, it's kind of appropriate that it falls on the same evening as Jim DeMeo's presentation regarding Edmund Hill Woods. There was a resident who lives on Kerry Craig Circle who had some trees that are located at the Edmund Hills Woods property that he was concerned would fall on his property. He has had a tree already fall on his house shortly after he bought the house a couple of years ago. And so now he's very aware of any trees that might do more damage. So he contacted the town, and working with the DPW director, had a tree contractor go out and take a look at it, confirm that there were actually 4 trees that were dead, dying, and posed a hazard. I spoke with the chair, Vinny and I spoke with the chair, and recommended that we authorize the work. And now we need you to pay for the work, which is $4,800. It's similar to what happened a few years ago up at Mount Pisgah. There were some trees up there that posed a threat that we had to spend some money out of the conservation fund for. It's what it's there for, part of our maintenance of our property. But in light of everything Jim said tonight, it seems that that's more proof that we need to go forward with the forestry management plan so that we could get ahead of some of these things and maybe even make some money in the process, or at least minimize our liability for future issues such as this. So we would ask that you would approve the expenditure of $4,800 from the conservation fund to pay the tree contractor who already did the work.
Who does the tree removal along the side of the streets? Because there's like these dead trees that are going to kill me because they're clearly dead giant trees along the public way, and nobody ever seems to pay to have those removed.
Well,
but yet whenever anybody abuts conservation land, they call us up and we're right out there to have their trees removed. So it doesn't shade their pool. I'm done. I said it.
No, wait. Give me a minute to answer a couple of those questions. The tree warden is the DPW director. He's charged with taking care of the trees that are within the town's right of way along streets. And he holds a public hearing whenever a tree needs to come down. So if there's a tree of concern that's not on their list of trees to take care of that you're aware of, please let him know, and he will evaluate the tree to see if it's healthy or if it warrants taking it down, or if it is on town property or not. We can only do this for town property, and we have to hold a tree hearing in order to do that. What they believe they do is they try to lump them all together, hold one big tree hearing, and talk about all the trees in town that are ready to come down this year. I don't believe he's done it yet this year, so there might be time to get on that list if you have some in mind that are questionable. So yes, we do take down trees. We also work with National Grid, who has a contractor who takes down trees and trims them to eliminate any power line outages in the wintertime. But yes.
I knew you were going to have a perfectly legitimate answer. I move to pay the bill.
Thank you.
Seconded by, was that Tom Beals?
Yes.
Vote to pay the bill. Tom Beals.
Yes.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So long as Todd doesn't get whacked by a tree in the next 60 days. We're fine with that.
It's a 50-50 chance.
Well,
Okay.
you know, if you work from home, you'll be safe.
I want to know, is this tree in front of your house?
No, no. I'm gonna send a picture to the tree warden now.
You can send it to me. He's on vacation.
Okay.
The Edmund Hill squatter is our last item here on the agenda.
All right, I just have, go to
You want to take it, Vin? You go right ahead.
No, you have more knowledge. I was just gonna say, I know only a little about it, that someone, a homeless person kind of moved into Edmund Hill Conservation Area. And
Yeah.
we need to get some, the police chief has been looking into it, and Family Services has done some work looking into it as well. And so we need to come up with the reasoning policy of why they can't be there to issue them a violation notice. And that's something I was going to do after the meeting. So that's the next thing to get ready.
That kind of sums it
That
up.
for summary.
There's somebody set up a little encampment up at Edmund Hill Woods. The police department was made aware of it. They had done some surveillance out there and have identified the person. The police department feels as though, because the land is owned by the Conservation Commission, the commission should issue a citation so that could be delivered to this person or this person's encampment, because they're not there every day or all day, every day or every night. So we would deliver something. Vinny would go with a police officer, deliver it, perhaps catch the individual and let them know that it's inappropriate and why. The research that Vinny is referring to that we still need to do is to find the policy and the rules about camping and fires and occupational of conservation land. So we're working on that. I believe that it is in the original deed when that land was given or purchased by the Conservation Commission. For that property, there was some restrictions. One of them was no camping and no fires, no campfires. Clearly, you can't inhabit the land. That's trespassing. So we're working towards an official letter that can be presented, and then the police department will assist, and then the person will be removed. That's where they're working with the Family and Youth Services to see if they can find an alternate location for this person and at least make an offer so that he's not just arrested for trespassing and put into the system. They're trying to work with him to make sure he has a place to go that he's willing to go to, but fully understanding that he can't be there. And then the DPW we will ask the DPW to go in and remove all signs of any campsite set up on the property that the commission owns. But we need to do a little more research before we can put that letter together. Just wanted to make you aware of it.
But he's not a disc golfer waiting for a tee time, is he?
Not that I know of, no. He might be a disc golfer, just not. That's not his only issue.
Was there a family involved
this
too?
the
Or was
one-
it just him? Was there a family?
I believe it was, from my discussion with the police chief, it was one person. They identified him. He's known to them. He was inhabiting another parcel privately owned across town. And once that was no longer available to him, he relocated to this spot. And now we're trying to find him a place that's appropriate for him that won't kick him out. Hopefully, if he'll go, clearly there'll be some other issues that person has, and whether or not he agrees to be relocated is what the Family and Youth Services has to deal with. And if not, then he gets arrested for trespassing, and then they deal with it through the court system, but we're trying to avoid that if possible.
You have a question, Kelly? Sorry.
Was this the tent that was in the woods? There was something that went around on Northborough Moms.
I'm
It
sure
was like a
did.
tent with leaves. Okay.
It's kind of a little encampment of pots and pans, a little
Yeah,
campfire,
it did not
some
look waterproof. No.
logs. I don't know
Okay.
if there's more than one person who was visiting, but it seemed like the police department only identified one person as actually living there. And he is known to them.
All right, so stay tuned, I guess, right?
Yes.
And we may have to amend our policies if there's nothing in writing already.
I believe, like I said, I believe it's in the deed and that we would cite that. There's also Article 97 of the state of Massachusetts regulations on open space and public lands, that you can't just camp on public lands overnight. We have rules that say it's closed at dusk. There's no camping, there's no hunting. All of that, I believe, is spelled out in the deed, but we do have that hunting policy that I mistakenly brought up earlier tonight regarding Mount Pisgah. But I believe we have something in writing for Edmund Hill Woods. It's just my workload has not allowed me to do the research, and Vinny's very good, but doesn't know where to look yet. So we're working on resolving all of those issues. My time, his knowledge of where everything is, and then get rid of the trespasser.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you want to bring up? Anybody have anything you want to bring up? No violations noted in your area of responsibility, what you're looking at? No? Okay.
What happened to the lady with the deck on Church Street? Did we find a solution for her? She has so much building material already.
I think Fred, you did something on that one, right? You found she was going to file on Church Street?
I believe that the building department was trying to get them to understand they couldn't build a deck without a permit. And then once they file that permit, they'll need to file with you. I believe that was the case there.
Keep your eyes peeled, Kelly, for signs of activity.
Eyes on the road, but get your kids
Yes,
watching out the window. So give them something to do while they're driving around on their way to soccer practice and ice cream.
You know what'll get you killed? Taking a picture of a landscaper dumping grass clippings in the wetlands. That will get you killed.
Depends on where it is.
All right. Anything else anybody has? And as far as we're all good for 7:20, I believe.
Yep.
we
If
got some-
anything changes on that due to the governor's state of emergency or non-extension of the acts, then it's we're going to go for the 20th. I think by August we'll be back to a regular schedule if everything goes well and the person who takes the job actually works there for more than a day like the last person. So we're good.
Okay, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yep.
All right, we're good to go. I think Jim DiGiulio, thank you again for a great support system. We're going to miss you. So
Absolutely, not a problem. Still always at the town.
the de facto commissioner, because you know exactly what's going on here, like we said. So, all right, a motion to dismiss.
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Seconded by Todd. Roll call. Tom Beals,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes.